Good morning. Thank you for being here to attend this important forum. I am Dot Miller. I am the president of the Wheat Ridge Chamber of Commerce and serve as the moderator today. Our event is hosted today by the Wheat Ridge Chamber of Commerce, the Wheat Ridge Business Association, and the Golden Chamber of Commerce. Some ground rules that I want to cover today. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for opening remarks, a minute and a half to answer each question, and 1 minute for closing remarks. Our timekeeper, Sam, will hold up a sign letting each candidate know when there's 1 minute remaining, 30 seconds remaining, and when to stop. To be fair to all candidates, I will have to interrupt you if you're talking when the stop sign is raised. We will ask the audience not to make comments or to interrupt the candidates during their answers. Following the candidate forum, we will hear both sides of the Milbon ballot initiative as well as both sides of the 2E ballot initiative in Wheat Ridge. Each presenter will have 15 minutes to speak to support or oppose the ballot initiative. Again, we will let you know when you have 1 minute remaining, 30 seconds, and when to stop. Could I ask the candidates for the district attorney's office to come and sit at the front, please? The candidates for district attorney are Pete Weir and Jake Lilly. The order of the candidates was determined by the coin toss at the beginning of this morning. And so, Jake Lilly, you will go first. Jake, you have 2 minutes for opening remarks.
Thank you, Dot, and thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm Jake Lilly, and I'm the Democratic nominee for district attorney here in Jeffco and in Gilpin counties. A little bit about me. I'm a former federal, state, and military prosecutor, and I'm a United States Army veteran of the war in Iraq. I'm running because I think it's time for a new generation of prosecutors. It's time that we address and end the mass incarceration problem that is facing our country. It is time that we end the overcriminalization of the mentally ill, of veterans, of poor, and minorities. And I'm running because it's time to get some of the money, the tremendous amounts of money that is currently wrapped up in the criminal justice system, out of the criminal justice system and into areas where it can do some good, like mental health treatment, veterans treatment, and dealing with many of the issues that are facing people today. Thank you, and I look forward to this debate today.
Thank you, Jake. Mr. Pete Weir, you have 2 minutes for opening remarks.
Thank you, Dot. Thank you to the Chambers for hosting this, and good morning. I am Pete Weir, your district attorney, and there's no greater privilege than to represent the people of the state of Colorado and the people of Jefferson County. My career spans 37 years working in the criminal justice system within Colorado, from the frontline prosecutor to the director of the Colorado District Attorney's Council, to being appointed by a Republican governor, Governor Owens, to the district court bench to serve as a district court judge for Jefferson and Gilpin counties, and then being selected by a Democrat governor, Bill Ritter, to join his cabinet as executive director of the Department of Public Safety. And also in that capacity, I helped create and served as the chairman of the Colorado Commission on Criminal and Juvenile Justice. But there's no greater privilege than to serve as your district attorney. My hallmark is to be able to distinguish good citizens who've made mistakes from criminals who perpetrate crimes in our community and have to be removed from our community. It's a balanced approach. We aggressively prosecute criminals. By the same token, we have a vision that is based on my experience of 37 years in Colorado, as opposed to my opponent. Jake's been here in Jefferson County for a little over 2 years and hasn't prosecuted a single criminal case in Jefferson County. Experience matters, and experience in Jefferson County matters. Thank you all very much for being here.
Thank you, Pete. And as with all of our candidates this morning, we will alternate between questions. So, Pete, you go first on this first question. What is your position on DUI enforcement with reference to jail to punish repeat offenders?
Let's talk about David Bunn. David Bunn got in an argument with his girlfriend. As a result, he got in a car and he started driving. David Bunn had a blood alcohol level 3 times the legal limit. He crashed into a car being driven by Linnea Dyke. Also in the car was Lindsay Petrie. Linnea was 19 at the time. David Bunn killed Linnea. This is what happens with drinking and driving. For first-time offenders for DUI, the focus should be on treatment and rehabilitation and assistance. However, we cannot tolerate repeat alcohol offenders in Jefferson County. They're going to be vigorously prosecuted. I was instrumental in helping to pass a felony DUI law, which makes it a crime for the fourth and subsequent alcohol offenses to now be felony conduct. These are dangerous, violent people that need to be removed from our community. Treatment for early offenders, prison for those that have not gotten the message.
Thank you, Pete. Jake, you're up next. What is your position on DUI enforcement with reference to jail to punish repeat offenders?
I absolutely agree that DUI is a serious scourge upon this country and that felony offenders need jail time. What we have now in the felony bill, though, we ended up with a little bit of a strange thing. So if you get your first DUI and you're over .20, you get 10 days. If you get your second DUI, you're going to get a minimum of 10 days. You get your third, you're going to get 60. But somehow in the felony bill, we ended up with you don't actually have a minimum jail time at that point. And I think that's wrong. I think we need to go back and fix that so there actually is a minimum jail time on the felony DUIs. Now, when you're talking felony DUIs, a lot of it depends on what's happened before. You know, have you gotten treatment before? And they wrote that specifically into that felony DUI bill, which I supported. It said the judge must consider, have you received treatment? But I can guarantee that by the time someone is on their fourth DUI, they have been given treatment after treatment. I come from a state where when we prosecuted with felony DUI was the third, and I've seen a guy get a life sentence for his 16th DUI, and I will tell you that guy deserved every bit of that sentence. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake. You're up first on the next question. What is your position on restitution for victims? What should the DA's policy be?
Well, I'll tell you, I don't think there's a prosecutor out there that says victims shouldn't have restitution. Of course, victims should get restitution. It's written into the statute. It's kind of one of the fundamental tenets of the criminal justice system. You're always there to punish a crime, but more than anything you're there to try and make a victim whole the best that you can. So a DA's priority should always be how they treat the victim, to make sure that the victim is heard, to make sure that the victim has their day in court, and that the victim gets the restitution they need to try and make them whole. Of course, you're never going to be able to truly make someone whole. But I've been a victim of a crime. Somebody broke into my wife and mine's house in Savannah, Georgia. They spent 6 hours in our house, according to the police, and cleaned us out of everything. I can tell you that feeling of vulnerability, that feeling of something taken from you that you can never get back. And a DA needs to spend their effort to do whatever they can to repair the psychological damage, to provide some salve, and of course to repair the financial damage as well.
Pete, you're up next. What is your position on restitution for victims, and what should the DA's policy be?
I'm proud to say that we have the finest victim advocates, victims unit in the state of Colorado. We have over 18 individuals dedicated to working with victims of crime, working with them through the system, being there as a support system. Restitution is part and parcel of this. Restitution is ordered in every case. This past year, my office, through our Victims Witness Unit, recovered $2.7 million of restitution on behalf of victims. What goes along with that is our Victims Compensation Program. These are folks that also assess the impact of crime on victims, and there's a special fund allocated to help to restore them. In this past year, we distributed $1.7 million through the Victims Compensation. You will not find a DA's office in the state more robust and more aggressive with respect to restitution for victims and trying to make them whole, at least financially.
Thank you, Pete. Jake, you're up next on that. Or actually, Pete, you're up on the next question. You both answered that first one. Pete, in the DA's office, where should the greatest emphasis be, giving your resources and funding?
My hallmark, once again, is to separate good citizens who've made mistakes from the criminals that prey among us. We aggressively prosecute those people that hurt other individuals. We are aggressive with murderers. We're aggressive with people that commit sex assaults. We're aggressive with people that commit significant economic crime. There's no greater, I believe, responsibility of a DA than to protect our most vulnerable citizens, which are our children and our senior citizens. We have the only unit in Colorado dedicated exclusively to elder abuse. We have 2 attorneys dedicated to that, along with investigators and analysts. We also have a special victims unit, crimes against children's unit, that focuses exclusively on the crimes being perpetrated against our youngest victims. Those cases are taken extraordinarily seriously, and they are prosecuted aggressively. Anyone that perpetrates on those individuals need to be taken out of our community, and they need to be placed in prison, and that's what we do in my office.
Thank you, Pete. Jake, same question for you. In the DA's office, where should the greatest emphasis be, giving your resources and funding?
A DA needs to be focused on preventing future crime. And that's a little bit of a paradigm shift from where we've been in DAs across the country for the last 40 years. But the whole point is, if you were to ask a victim, can we make you whole, they would say absolutely, or you can try. But if you were to say, can we prevent this from happening again, is that important to you? I guarantee every single one of them would say, yes, do whatever you can to keep someone else from being in the shoes I'm in. So when it comes to violent crime, especially violent crimes with weapons, that's where the DA needs to emphasize on putting someone in prison for as long as they possibly can. That's where a DA needs to be able to reach out and work with things like the U.S. Attorney's offices, who across this country have great programs where they can take over violent criminals with guns. Criminals who maybe just are felons in the past and now they have a gun, and they can take it and they can put someone in jail for 10 years at that point. And likewise, the opposite of that is actually true. When you are focusing on preventing future crime, when you take the violent criminals and you put them into prison, and then you take those with treatable issues, those whose issues are addiction or mental health problems or veterans suffering from the war, and you get them the programs they need so that they can get their lives back together and not do these sort of things again.
Thank you, Jake. Jake, you're up next on the next question. You're up first. How do you think the DA's office should be dealing with serious domestic violent crimes?
Domestic violence is some of the most heartbreaking of crimes that you deal with as a prosecutor. And I'll tell you, having prosecuted thousands or maybe even tens of thousands of cases, when you deal with the victim of domestic violence, you're dealing with someone whose entire life has been shattered. And when that rises to the level of a serious crime where they've been hurt, they maybe have received serious bodily injury, or a weapon has been used, or God forbid, we have the strangulation cases, then you're dealing with an issue that requires tremendous amounts of punishment. No amount of rehabilitation is going to work on someone that can seriously abuse their partner, the person that is supposed to be clearest to them. Those are the kind of people that a DA should focus on getting the maximum sentence on. Those are the kind of people that you should not be afraid to go to trial on. You should be willing to say, all right, if you're not going to plead to a very tough sentence here, we're going to take you to trial, and we're going to show the world that we do not tolerate that here in Jefferson County.
Thank you, Jake. Pete, you're up next. Same question. How do you think the DA's office should be dealing with serious domestic violence crimes?
Jake, you've prosecuted tens of thousands of domestic violence cases. That's interesting. You've been a defense attorney for the last 2 years in Jefferson County and have not prosecuted a single case in Jeffco, as opposed to 37 years of experience that I have in Colorado in the criminal justice system. Domestic violence cases are extraordinarily serious. We have a fast-track program in Jefferson County where the next day after an event, the victim is in the office, they're being counseled, but more than anything, the question being asked of that, primarily a woman, is what can we do to help make you safe? What can we do? What kind of protections can we put in place to make you safe? That's our first and foremost concern. And that also goes along with aggressive prosecution. I have personally prosecuted numerous murder cases that started out as misdemeanor domestic violence cases. We often talk about domestic violence as a kettle of popcorn. Which one of the kernels is going to pop? That's what you're faced with domestic violence. It's a scourge in our community, but we are there to assist the women and to keep them safe. That's our guiding principle.
Thank you, Pete. Pete, you're up next on this question. What is your position on alternative sentencing options to jail?
Well, this is something that Jake made reference to earlier, and I reserved my comment on this because I knew it was a specific question. Because Jake is not offering anything that is not already being done in my office. We started, under my leadership, an adult mental health court, recognizing that we've got to address the underlying factors that contribute to criminal behavior. It's not for everyone. It's for appropriate offenders that have committed low-level crimes. Under my watch, we have started a veterans treatment court, recognizing that we have to pay special attention to those individuals that have given their service for our country and come back with substance abuse or mental health issues, and they are treated differently with Veterans Treatment Court. We have an elder abuse unit directed towards the elderly. We have and started the only human trafficking court in the state of Colorado. Human trafficking, the sexual and commercial exploitation of young women, takes place in Jefferson County. We will not tolerate it here. And as a result of that, I've led the efforts to recover young women at risk of being victims of human trafficking and then aggressively prosecuting them. People like Bobby Gonzalez, who's received a sentence of 112 years to life for prostituting a 14-year-old girl. That is not going to happen in Jefferson County.
Thank you, Pete. Jake, what is your position on alternative sentencing options to jail?
Well, as you would note, I don't think there's a prosecutor out there that doesn't believe in diversion courts. Diversion courts have proven successful over the last 15 years. They have been fantastic in their ability to pull certain people out of the system. But you're not just looking at sentencing. When you're talking about things like mental health, you're looking at from the moment of arrest all the way through sentencing options. Denver just started a program where they actually have mental health specialists out with police officers on the street to deal with situations when they get a call that they believe is mental health related. You're dealing with mental health there because you might be able to divert someone from ever being arrested, because even getting arrested is a traumatic incident. Even going to jail for that night, one night or 2 nights, or however long it takes until you get out, is starting the problem, starting the contact with the system. And then you're getting into the decisions, charging decisions. Is mental health taken into account when you're talking about charging decisions? Is it taken into account when you're talking about the offer made initially? Or is it taken into account then when you're talking about a diversion court, which is an excellent option if we have the resources to do it? But we got to put a tremendous amount of resources into it. And finally, if they're not an appropriate candidate for the diversion court, is it still taken into account when we talk about probation or community corrections or going forward from there?
Thank you, Jake. That wraps up our questions. Jake, you go first on the closing remarks. You have 1 minute for closing remarks.
Thank you. And thank you all for being here and listening to it. I know when you frequently go out on the road and you talk to people about DA's offices and they say, how can the DA's office have different ideas? You're all prosecutors. Well, I've tried 122 jury trials in my career. I'm trying them right now. I'm a frontline prosecutor. I'm a frontline defense attorney. I have seen both sides of the aisle, and I think it's extremely important to have been on both sides of the aisle because I think you learn things. I thought I was a very fair prosecutor, and I hope I was a very fair prosecutor. But as a defense attorney, you learn things that you didn't know. This time, this country is now at a turning point in the way we prosecute cases. This country is at a turning point in criminal justice. We are finally talking about all of the problems that we have done in the last 30 years, and it's time that we have the ability to fix them. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake. Pete, you have 1 minute for closing remarks.
You know, I've been a leader in Colorado for 37 years on those issues. That's why it's been a bipartisan effort. Becoming district attorney is a political process. Being district attorney is not. Everybody cares about public safety, Republicans, Democrats, unaffiliated. And it's based upon trust, based upon relationship developed over time. But a district attorney also has to have certain qualities that other people that perhaps run for office do not have to the same extent. A prosecutor has got to have character, integrity, and pursue the truth. I have not heard one word from my opponent today disavowing the effort of a billionaire from the East Coast, George Soros, and the vicious ads that are being run. I would hope that a man of integrity, a man that wants to lead an office, would repudiate and disavow those ads, and I've heard nothing about that. Truth and character matter as district attorney.
Thank you, Pete. Thank you to our district attorney candidates, Pete Weir and Jake Lilly. We appreciate you being here today and letting us get to know you a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, I would like to welcome County Commissioner candidates Casey Ty and Frank Tennyson to the dais. I would call this a dais. And let's give a round of applause to our timer, Sam, for snapping up every single question. We are on rapid fire right now. All right, again, determined by a coin toss this morning. Casey Ty, you're going to go first. You have 2 minutes for opening remarks.
Good morning. I'm Casey Ty, and it's been my privilege to serve as one of your county commissioners for the last 4 years. I've got deep ties to Jefferson County. My wife and I moved to the Applewood area a little over 25 years ago. We raised our family, and we still live in Applewood. I come with a legal background. I practiced law in Arvada for 3 years. And then I had an opportunity to join CDOT, and I worked for the Colorado Department of Transportation for 24 years. The last 11 of those, I was the audit director at CDOT. 4 years ago when I ran, I promised to increase the attention to financial accountability in the county. And I've delivered on that promise. We have a new audit committee, Citizens Audit Committee, that has worked to increase the awareness for internal controls. And I can say our audits have improved each year. This year we had very few audit findings, none were very significant. I promised to protect Jeffco, to protect the beautiful environment we have, and to protect neighborhoods. I've delivered on that promise. We have a new sustainability commission. We have professionals that are helping develop an energy plan for the county with Xcel Energy, and we're finding ways that citizens can improve their conservation and reduce the carbon footprint. I've also fought for neighborhoods. I worked with Prospect Park on saving the Applewood Golf Course, and I think it's important that we protect our open spaces. I also promised to promote Jeffco and improve business. I've delivered on that promise. In 2015, I was the Jefferson Economic Development Corporation's elected official of the year because I've worked with the business community to promote Jefferson County and bring good jobs to Jeffco. I'm running because there's more work to be done. I want to build on that record of success. We've got work to do with affordable housing. We've got work to do with developing more open space. We have work to do with improving our budget. I'm looking forward to working with all of you, working with our partners, our nonprofits, on making Jeffco a better community. I hope I can get your vote. I'm looking forward to working with you for the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. Frank Tennyson, you have 2 minutes for opening remarks.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Frank Tennyson. I'm running for County Commissioner, District 2. I want to thank the Wheat Ridge Chamber and the Golden Chamber for hosting this event. I want to thank all of you in the audience and the TV audience that are participating and getting engaged, finding out who the candidates are that are running this election cycle. A little bit about myself. I'm often asked about my accent. I was born in Germany. I didn't speak English until I was 12 years old. My mom had remarried, and my stepfather moved us to Colorado. And when he adopted me, I chose to become an American citizen, and I've been a patriot ever since. I went to school at Bear Creek, not too far from here, so I'm a product of Jefferson County schools. And all through high school, my best friend and I always talked about joining the Air Force together. So about 3 months after we graduated, Mike calls me up and says, guess what I did today? I joined the Navy. So I had a few choicy words for him, but being a man of my word, I was at the recruiter's office the next day. After that, I moved to Chicago, and I started my banking career. Met my wife working at a company picnic. And when we had the chance to move, we decided to move back to Colorado and specifically back to Jefferson County because I wanted to make sure that my 3 sons have the same opportunities that I had growing up here. Now, I keep telling people we have the world's biggest playground in our backyard. We can go camping, we can go hiking, we can go fishing, we can do all those things in our backyard. Wouldn't you agree? And it's because of those things that I want to make sure that my grandchildren get those same opportunities growing up here in Jefferson County. My name is Frank Tennyson, and I'm running for County Commissioner.
Thank you, Frank. And you're up first on this first question. We have heard from our businesses that they're having trouble finding qualified candidates for open positions. If elected, What will you do to create a more competent and engaged workforce?
You know, that's a great question. I've spent my entire career working with small businesses that want to create jobs. I know that the two things that we need are good paying jobs and having a workforce that can keep the world's biggest playground and make sure that we have the skills to be employed. So we need to assist job seekers and give them the tools to market themselves better. Recently, I had a chance to tour the Workforce Center in Jefferson County, and I got to see the amazing job that they do there. They help with the recently unemployed people. They help with new job seekers and our veterans with work assessment planning, resume writing, and job placement. That will continue to be a priority for me. Employment is vital to our economy here in Jefferson County. But we also need to strike a balance of creating an even more friendly business environment here in Jefferson County. We want to make sure that existing businesses can expand their workforce and that we bring the right jobs to Jefferson County. I want Jefferson County to be the leader in the state of bringing good paying jobs to our community. I believe in sensible economic growth, and I will work with the business community to get some of the regulations out of place so that more businesses can grow in this community.
Thank you, Frank. Casey, same question. We've heard from our businesses that they are having trouble finding qualified candidates for open positions. If elected, what will you do to create a more competent and engaged workforce?
Yeah, with the ever-changing technology and as fast as our economy is moving, that's always a challenge. And the Workforce Center is doing a great job in trying to provide workers information on what they need to know to compete in our economy. What we have to do is, we're not going to be able to do this on our own. With so many of these problems, it's going to take collaboration. You know, we're going to have to work with the community colleges. Red Rocks has just opened the their new campus in Arvada, where they're doing some healthcare training, and they're having a physician's assistant program at the Arvada Center. That's one of those things where they've identified that we've got more seniors growing, and that's one area of focus. What we need to do is continue to talk about where are the jobs going to be in the future, and then work with people like the Red Rocks, work with our colleges, work with apprenticeship programs. Not every kid wants to go to college or needs to go to college. We need to get more trades going. We need to work with with labor and try to find more apprenticeship programs that'll identify workers and train them on alternative jobs. So I think the big thing that we need to take from this is collaboration, identifying where the business is going to grow, and make sure we have the training matching where the business growth is going to happen. We've identified the key things with the workforce now, with the technology, healthcare, and some transportation jobs going forward. So I'll continue to work with and collaborate with those different groups.
Thank you, Casey. Casey, you're up next on this question. With an aging population in Jefferson County, what is your position, or what is your solution to the affordable, attainable, and senior housing issues?
Well, you're going to hear a common theme here. Collaboration, I think, is always going to be a common theme. Jefferson County has the highest percentage of seniors of any county in the state, and because this is a great place to live, we're going to continue to age in Jefferson County. What we need to do is work with different groups to provide seniors options. Some seniors are going to want to age in place. They're going to want to stay in their home. We need to work with people like Senior Resource Center to provide support for those seniors so they can be safe in their homes. Other seniors will want to downsize or move to other housing options. Well, we've got a problem currently with the laws in Colorado with construction defect, in that we aren't building the product for owner-occupied multi-family housing isn't available. I've been an advocate for changing that law. I will continue to do so. But the biggest thing is also providing transportation. So seniors, if they want to age in place or they want to live in different areas, they have that option where they can use mass transit and that kind of thing. So it has to be a holistic approach to solving this problem. And ultimately, we want to work with the market. We want to work with private developers. We want to work with realtors to make this happen and grow the economy. And I definitely want to work with our federal partners on our home funds and our HUD funds to make sure that we can build the options that are needed for senior housing.
Thank you so much, Casey. Frank, the same question to you. With an aging population in Jefferson County, what is your solution to the affordable, attainable, and senior housing issues?
That's a great question, and it's something that's actually close to my heart as well. My wife keeps reminding me that I'm graying every day more and more. It's the side of my hair all over the place here. We all know that home values have more than doubled in the years. And in the last few years, let me start over. We all know that values have more than doubled in the last few years, which creates an environment where first-time homebuyers are unable to find homes. And we know that rents have skyrocketed. This creates an issue for our seniors who are considering to downsize into smaller patio homes, less upkeep, less maintenance. And we know that the inventory of affordable homes is not available. We need to work with developers to create an environment that allows for building of attainable homes. Not only do we need to create the infrastructure for affordable housing for our seniors, but we also need to make sure that these homes are close to stores with easy access and to good healthcare providers. If the closest store is more than 15 minutes away, we're not providing the services that our aging community needs. Construction defect laws limit developers from building affordable homes in our community. And if our state legislators can't take care of this issue, then we need to take control of that at a local level.
Thank you, Frank. Frank, you're up next on this question. You're up first. What are the top 2 budget challenges facing Jefferson County in the next year, and how are you going to address them?
Great. Well, this is a topic that comes quite easy for me. As I mentioned, I've been in banking in the private sector my entire career. I've been in banking for over 29 years. And if there's one thing I understand, it's numbers. But I also know that that's not easy for everybody else. Looking at a financial statement, knowing what to look for, I work with businesses every day, and I understand what their financial needs are and create solutions for them. I know how to look at a budget, determine what looks out of place, and ask the right questions, looking for ways how we can become more efficient. Maybe we can save some time and some money, which will create more opportunities to provide additional services for our citizens. Has anybody looked at our budget recently? I went online last night, and it's almost 300 pages big of information. And that's overwhelming for some people. I propose that once or twice a year, we place an ad in the newspapers with some pie charts and easy to understand information and share with our citizens how we're spending our money and to show that we're truly transparent. With my experience, I make the seemingly complicated process easy to understand.
Thank you, Frank. Casey, what are the top 2 budget challenges facing Jefferson County in the next year, and how are you going to address them?
Well, if you take a look at our budget, you'll see that the largest expenditure we have is for our county employees, is salaries. That's true in a lot of businesses, it's true in the county. We've got great employees, and we've had challenges keeping our employees because we weren't paying a competitive wage. We were losing sheriff deputies at an alarming rate when I first got on the board because we were not paying a competitive wage. I'm proud to say that we have been able to provide modest pay increases for our employees, in particular our sheriff's deputies each year, and we've been able to slow that rate of attrition. We still have more work to do, but we're making progress. But going forward, we've got to be able to figure out how to remain competitive on salaries, but still stay within our budget. And we have to right-size our governments one way we do it. We need to be looking at what services we're delivering and how many people do we need to deliver that service, and are there ways we can leverage technology to provide more services without having to add more employees. So that's the biggest challenge is making sure we stay competitive and meet within the budget for our employees. The second one I would argue, and there's a lot of different things I thought about. We have a lot of challenges. We're meeting them with a lot of them. I would say transportation. We are trying to keep up with a growing population, and we've not been able to keep up with our road construction. And so we need to be creative in looking for different ways to fund transportation, partnering with Colorado Department of Transportation, and figuring out how to increase capacity and maintain a good road system.
Thank you, Casey. Casey, you're up first on this next question. We have incredible nonprofit organizations and business organizations that do great work in Jefferson County. The question is, how would you see the county collaborating with Jeffco businesses and nonprofit organizations?
We do have incredible nonprofits and businesses that help Jefferson County in so many ways. In a minute and a half, I can't go into all of them. We need to be supportive of those nonprofits. I sit on the board for the Jefferson Center for Mental Health. It's a great organization. They provide wonderful services to our community, but we need to be supportive of them. They've got challenges with their budget, and with the changing healthcare dynamic in this country, they're going to be challenged, and we need to be partners with them to make sure they stay viable. Senior Resource Center provides tremendous services to the county: transportation, daycare. They provide counseling for caregivers in the families. We need to be supportive of them. How do we be supportive? Well, we need to be supportive both financially. The county needs to step up and help with their budgets. We also need to help be a clearinghouse for them to find volunteers and partner these organizations together so there isn't duplication of services. We try to do that through our Human Services Office to coordinate and to work with our faith-based community and do all that. Also, with our private businesses, we're trying to create an incubator right now in partnership with NREAL to have private businesses work with entrepreneurs to develop alternative energy sources and grow those into viable corporate businesses. We've got so much volunteerism in Jefferson County. It's wonderful. We need to continue to foster that with all our businesses.
Frank, we have incredible nonprofit organizations and business organizations that do great things for Jefferson County. How would you see the county collaborating with Jeffco businesses and nonprofit organizations?
Great. Definitely collaboration is one of those skill sets that we all need. After being married for 23 years to my wife, she said I'm getting much better at it. I look at collaboration as a four-legged chair. There's government, there are the citizens, there are the business partners, and then there are the nonprofits and the faith communities. All of them work together to determine the needs of our community. This joint effort where citizens of the county work together to determine what we need in our community, and then the other partners working together to provide those services, not the other way around. It's not the government's role to implement programs that they deem necessary for the community. It's to provide the services for our citizens. Jefferson County needs to work with cities, with state, with federal agencies, so that we could all work together for the common goal. An example is Wadsworth Avenue, just outside here. Parts of the street is maintained by the county, part of it is maintained by the cities of Lakewood and Wheat Ridge, and part of it by the state. We all need to work together to make sure we have this common goal together. I've been recognized by my peers for my ability to build relationships. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Frank, you're up first on this next question. How many Jefferson County Commissioners do you think there should be, and why?
That's a great question, and I won't even take my full minute and a half to answer that. I understand some people are looking for 5 commissioners versus 3 commissioners. My stance is that we stay with 3 commissioners. And the reason being is my principle is that I'm looking to not increase government, but keep it the same and looking for ways to reduce it. So going from 3 commissioners to 5 commissioners would increase that by 60%, and I don't approve that.
Thank you, Frank. Casey, same question. How many Jefferson County Commissioners do you think there should be, and why?
I'm willing to let the voters decide on that. I know there was a movement a couple years ago to petition onto the ballot to get to that question of should we be expanded to 5 commissioners, and they were not organized enough to get all the signatures they needed. I'm willing to, the county commissioner commissioners can refer that question to the ballot, and I'm ready and willing to refer that to the ballot 2 years from now and let the voters decide, do they want to have more representation? Do they want to create a closer tie to their county commissioners by having 5, or do they want to stay with 3? This is a big county. We have over 500,000 citizens. And I think if the citizens want to weigh in and expand to 5 commissioners, they ought to have that opportunity. So I'm willing to refer that to the ballot if I can get another commissioner to join me in that effort.
Thank you, Casey. That wraps up our questions today. Casey, you have 1 minute for closing remarks.
Well, first I want to thank you and the Chambers for hosting this event. I want to thank everyone who's here and watching on TV. We appreciate the time you're listening to us. It's been my privilege to serve for the last 4 years. I have had a tremendous time working with the various jurisdictions and working with the county employees, working with the citizens, working with the businesses of Jefferson County. I'm proud of my record. I think I've made a difference. When I got elected 4 years ago, it's kind of humbling to know the citizens put their trust in you to manage their county government. And so I've taken that job very seriously. And I show up to work every day trying to do the best I can. And I promise you that if I'm reelected, I'll continue to treat the office with the respect that it deserves. And I'll continue to try to do the best I can. Like I say, I'm proud of my record. I feel like I have a record of success. I've got a lot of support and endorsements from people throughout the community. I've tried to collaborate and work closely with them. I'll continue to do that if I'm reelected. I hope I can get your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. And Frank, you have 1 minute for closing remarks.
Great. Well, again, thank you everybody for coming out. As the next county commissioner, I'm going to focus on 3 things. I'm going to focus on sensible economic development that's appropriate for our community. I'm going to make sure that we address the needs of our aging community and provide the services that they need. And more importantly, I'm going to focus on protecting the world's biggest playground. I believe that with my experience in accounting and financing, my leadership experience, and my passion for Jefferson County, that I'm the right candidate for this seat. I ask for your vote this November. My name is Frank Tunison. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you to the Jefferson County Commissioners candidates for being here today and for letting us hear more about you. Frank Tennyson and Casey Tighe. At this time, I would like to invite our other county commissioner candidates to come up, Libby Szabo and Marty Smith. Thank you to our audience for being so fabulous, too. I really appreciate it.
Fabulous.
I hope that my friends Jesse behind the magic curtain here can get a scan of the audience and how fabulous you all look this morning. At this time, I would like to welcome County Commissioner candidates Marty Smith and Libby Szabo for being here today. With the coin toss, Libby, you get to go first. You have 2 minutes for opening remarks.
Great. Well, thank you, Dot, for having me, and thank you, everybody, for coming out on this beautiful Colorado morning to invest in your county and invest in what's going on around you. My name is Libby Szabo, and I'm your Jefferson County Commissioner. I have strong ties to this community that all of us call home. My husband, Dennis, and I have raised our 4 children here. We own a business here, and we do the majority of our volunteer work here. I've had the privilege of growing up in Jeffco, and it's been a great privilege. It's been my ability to live my American dream right here in the greatest playground. In addition, I have the get up and go to be your county commissioner. The county is a large place, and you need somebody with a lot of energy and drive to get the job done. And I have done that in many aspects. I have the experience that affects your family and my family every day. My proven track record of working with everyone and collaborating on many issues to get the right outcomes for the whole health of the county. Further, I've been recognized as a leader in our community. amongst my peers. And when I was elected to the State House, I became the first Latina that was nominated to the assistant leader in the House. And being 10 months in to my county commissionership, they had the confidence in me to elect me as chairman. And finally, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a businesswoman, and I'm a volunteer in the community. I've walked a mile in your shoes, and I want to be your county commissioner. Thank you.
Marty, you have 2 minutes for opening remarks.
Thanks very much for having us here. I think that these forums are so important for everyone to understand who we are. And I want to let you know that I came here in 1985. Coors brought me here. They had a business issue that they needed to resolve, and I worked for one of their agencies that did marketing and strategic development in Chicago. I came to Colorado to help bring Coors brand and Coors Light brand back into full production and to help solve some business issues, which I did. You may know about the Coors Light Silver Bullet, and that was one of my efforts when I first came here. So I want to let you know that I have been here for quite some time and never left Colorado except for a short stint that I went to New York to work for Eastman Kodak. And I want to let you know that in terms of having that kind of background, what I've experienced is great vision and great strategic ability to help move businesses forward. That's the kind of experience I'm going to bring to Jeffco, that business development kind of mindset and the ability to move businesses forward and to repair some things I think that are going on in the county. Right now, we are losing larger businesses, and the burden is on our small businesses to carry the load for both our taxes and also in terms of hiring practices. So I want to help bring back mid-sized businesses. I want to help bring back the large businesses to Jefferson County and to help encourage that kind of growth environment that will help bring good jobs. And I want to tell you that in terms of bringing those good jobs back, what also comes with bringing good jobs back is an opportunity to have healthy community. So thank you very much. I'm glad to be here and certainly look forward to answering the rest of these questions.
Thank you. Well, good, because you're up first on the next one.
Okay.
Marty, we have heard from our businesses that they are having trouble finding qualified candidates for open positions. If elected, what will you do to create a more competent and engaged workforce?
You know, I wish I could just take the script that Casey had, because he and I are neck and neck on many of these questions. So I'm going to say that, first of all, I agree with all of the things that he said. I would also suggest that part of bringing good workforce back together again has to do with not only working with the county workforce development, but it also has to do with working with our local community colleges, which we have several of them. I recently did a project for Red Rocks Community College to help them look at the strategic development in the county. And one of the things that I realized when I was doing that project for them is that education is a huge piece part. And so whether that is encouraging businesses and helping support business to get that education through the workforce development, but also through bringing together nonprofits as well as our community colleges to help make that happen. And I'm a very big proponent of education.
Thank you, Marty. Libby, same question. We have heard from our businesses that they are having trouble finding qualified candidates for open positions. If elected, what will you do to create a more competent and engaged workforce?
Well, Dot, I believe that having a qualified, competent workforce is the foundation of every community. And we need to make sure that our county government creates a foundation to make sure those things can happen. I think that workforce development is made up of three components. One, bringing jobs to the county. The county and its employers need a good workforce. Training employees to meet the needs of employees so that those employers can feed our local economy. And third, to make sure all agencies in the community are working together, whether it's the chambers, it's other business groups, it's the community colleges, it's the local high schools. Everybody wants a good job. A good job is freedom. Freedom to do what you like to do on the weekends. Freedom to feed your family. And I believe that we also need to bring more vocational things. We own a machine shop, and machining is a dying industry. And our company will be in big trouble, our country will be in big trouble if we don't train these vocational workers like in Warren Tech type of schools.
Thank you, Libby. Libby, you're up first on this next question. With an aging population in Jefferson County, what is your solution to the affordable, attainable, and senior housing issues?
Well, each one of us is at a different stage in life, but we're getting older every day. And so this is something that I think about every single day because I have some in-laws who are aging, and they've chosen to age in place in a large acreage in Evergreen, and it's getting tough on them. But that is their choice, and we need to create all the choices that are available to us. Senior housing looks very different today than it did a few decades ago. Today, we have different needs. Each senior want to make their own decisions, and whether they live in an adult community, whether they have assisted living, whether they are aging in place in their own homes, or whether they want to downsize to live in a townhome or a condo. And we need to make sure that we have that inventory in place. And I worked hard in the state legislature to make sure our construction defects laws would come into place. But the special interest kept it out, and now we're in a quandary. And I have proposed something in the county that we just do it on our own, that we make a policy, run state legislation, that we can have our own construction defects laws, and I'm going to work hard on that.
Thank you, Libby. Marty, with an aging population in Jefferson County, what is your solution to the affordable, attainable senior housing issue?
First of all, let me say that the county isn't separate from its municipalities. So dealing with senior issues, we have to work closely with municipalities to make those solutions available. So making those solutions available means a variety of things. If we have a senior population that has grown up here, their children were raised here, and they want their children's children to be able to be raised here as well. So whether they want to be aging in place, whether they want senior housing, whatever that might mean, our government has a responsibility to support and work with our local nonprofits to make sure that we have the right solutions. There is already agreements with many of them, but I'm not seeing those dollars go forward as I'm seeing the aging population grow. We have, in 5 years, we're going to have 1 in 4 of our population as seniors, and that has to have support from our government on down, and we have to make sure that those solutions are viable solutions, not secondary solutions that say, okay, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. We have to have solutions that work and help our seniors grow in place or do whatever they want to do to be able to stay in this community. So we have a responsibility to them, and I believe that that responsibility is one of the biggest issues that we face in Jefferson County.
Thank you, Marty. You're up first on this next question. What are the top 2 budget challenges facing Jefferson County in the next year, and how are you going to address them?
I think the vision that we should have for Jefferson County, and that I think is really important about budgeting, is having a budget that looks like the same year after year after year is not visioning for this county. That's what I'm seeing again in this budget. The same for the last 4 years. What I want to see happen for this county is consider that we do have an affordable housing problem that's affecting our seniors, it's affecting our workforce. The reason that we can't support our businesses right now is because people can't afford to live and work here. We have to solve that problem, and there are many ways to solve that. I believe that I will bring some ideas and vision to this county that will move it forward, that our budget's going to address those issues, that we're going to have new ideas, that we're going to have long-range plans. And that's the way I look at it for the county, that we need new ideas, that we need to bring those ideas now, not more of the same. And the second one is also dealing with this senior population issue. It's huge in this county, and we have to have budget that supports our nonprofits, and not to pull them back, but to look at ways that we not only support them, as Casey said, which I think was an excellent idea, is that we have to have those resources at the county that shows them where to go to get those problems solved. So those are the two issues I think that are greatest for us right now.
Thank you, Marty. Libby, same question. What are the top 2 budget challenges facing Jefferson County in the next year, and how are you going to address them?
You know, when I make budget decisions, I look at the core values of what we in Jefferson County hold dear. And I look at our budget from a broad perspective of public safety. Now, public safety just doesn't encompass law enforcement, which of course is very, very important. Keeping our children safe from predators, keeping our roads safe from drunk drivers, those type of things. We do an excellent job in Jefferson County at that. But also, safe roads and bridges, where we can deliver our goods and services safely throughout the county, is a priority of needs to be a priority of our budget. Where we can also deliver our families safe to ball practice, to school. Of course, a healthy environment. Everybody wants clean air and water, and that's imperative to public safety. And I think those are the things that Jefferson County citizens expect from us, and I think that's something we should deliver on in our budget.
Thank you, Libby. You're up first on this next question. We have incredible nonprofit organizations and business organizations that do great work in Jefferson County. How do you see the county collaborating with Jeffco business organizations and nonprofit organizations?
Well, you know, I think that's a great question, because I believe collaboration in any aspect, whether you're just a family in your own home, collaborating with your spouse and your children, or you own a business and collaborating with your employees. But I have a proven track record, not only as I worked in the State House, but as I work at the County Commission, and I'm your commissioner. I have a track record where that is all inclusive. I believe everybody should have a say in how their county is built. We have to work together with our citizens, our business groups, our education groups, cities, counties, to create and ensure the vitality and the strength of our community we call Jefferson County. My mom used to always tell me, 2 heads are better than 1. And I've always lived by that. And together, you and I, we can make a better Jeffco.
Thank you, Libby. Marty, we have an incredible nonprofit organizations and business organizations that do great work in Jefferson County. How would you see the county collaborating with Jeffco business organizations and nonprofit organizations?
I think it's critical. One of the things that I believe is that our community together grows and thrives. Our community separated does not. So what we have to do is to support those nonprofits at all levels, and to support them through also not only providing financial support, but to be out there working with them to understand what those issues are. I've been a volunteer for 14 years for the Action Center and have distributed everything from educational supplies to school children to helping feed people when a working class family is struggling. We have to help these people. We have to be able to support them, because if we don't, then the things that Commissioner Zeba was talking about in terms of safety and all of the other issues that come along with a community that collapses happens. So what I want to say to you is it's critically important that we support them, and it has to be supported from the government level as well. To have that be the same budget year after year as our community grows and grows, as we have an aging population, and as we have families that are struggling, and to watch those families struggling, we have to do a better job, because that's what makes us thrive and grow in Jefferson County.
Thank you, Marty. Marty, how many county commissioners do you think that there should be and why?
I agree with Commissioner Ty. That is the voice of the people, and I support whether they want 3 or they want 5. So what I would say about that is if we feel like we're not reaching out to the community the way we should, then we have a responsibility to support 5. If the county residents feel that we're still doing well with 3, that's great. But I do believe that what we have to do, we have a county that's bigger than the population of Wyoming. If we have a county bigger than the population of Wyoming, 3 people will struggle and always struggle to reach out to as many people as we would like. So no matter who you are as commissioner, it's tough for 3 people to represent a county this big. But again, if that's what the citizens want, I support it. If they want 5, I support that as well.
Thank you, Marty. Libby, same question. How many Jefferson County commissioners do you think there should be and why?
You know, I get asked that all the time, and when I get asked that question, I ask, what do you think the difference is, and what do you think it would bring? And the answer I get is that it would provide more representation. And I guess the question is, I look at 2 aspects. How much more representation do we actually need? We have our 3 county commissioners. Everybody has a city council member representing them. They have a mayor. They have a state representative. They have a state senator. They have a federal representative. They have a federal senator. They have a governor. There are a lot of people that represent each one of us every day. I look at it as a business aspect. It costs money to bring on more commissioners. In our business, when we bring on new employees, we ask 2 things. Do we need that employee, and do we have the means to pay them? Each county commissioner costs about $500,000. That's $1 million each year to the county. Do we want to take away from other things that where we're serving the community to add those 2 on? And that's a question we as county commissioners need to ask ourselves. We have to, how thin do we want to cut our pie, and what do we want to cut in order to do that?
Thank you, Libby. That's all for our questions for the county commissioners. Libby, you have 1 minute for closing remarks.
Right. Thank you. Well, thank you again for being here. The reason why I first ran for office and what I've done all my life is I've invested in the community that's giving me so much. That's helped me raise my family. That's helped my business thrive. And I want to give back to our community. I believe that's important. I have instilled in my children, everybody has an obligation to serve their community in one way or another. Whether you're coaching youth sports, or whether you work at the local food bank, or whether you serve on the county commission. And this is how I want to give back to the community that's given me so much.
Thank you, Libby. Marty, you have 1 minute for closing remarks.
I want to thank all of you for being here and allowing us to share our views and values with you today. One of the things that I do want to express to you is that smart government is what we need in Jefferson County. I want to bring smart government back to Jefferson County. So what smart government means is efficient government, to be able to provide you an opportunity to be able to speak to us, whether it be electronic or it be in person, so that you do have those touch points. Smart government also means when those communication tools are put in place, what you're going to get is an opportunity to know what's going on in the county, so you know when you want to be involved. I'm in support of taking those meetings from 8 o'clock in the morning, as they do with the school board, and put them in the evening, and the reason being because more of you need to be engaged in county government. Too many people have told me, I don't know what county government is, because they can't get off work to come find out. Let's have county government be supportive of you. Let's have county government take care of a new vision for
Thank you,
Jefferson
Marty.
County.
Thank you to our Jefferson County Commissioners, Libby Szabo and Marty Smith.
That 1 minute goes quick, doesn't it?
At this time, I would like to welcome the candidates for State House Representative District 24 to come up. And while they're coming up, I would like to thank our candidates for being so respectful to each other. I think candidates Clinton and Trump could take some lessons from you. Welcome. And with the coin toss, Joe DeMott, you get to go first. You have 2 minutes for opening remarks.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joe DeMott, and I'd like to thank all the members of the Wheat Ridge and Golden Chambers of Commerce and our business association for having us, as well as the business owners and members of those for having us today. I want to thank the city of Wheat Ridge for hosting us as well today. I'm here because as a father of 2 wonderful kids, I have a 3rd grader and a 5th grader, a husband and a business owner, politics has become a big part of our lives. I don't think it needs to be that way. We were given some questions today that I think will show why we need representation that truly comes from and stays local. I believe that being a native and active community supporter paired with my experience that I've gained gives me what it takes to represent this district in its best interest. And I hope that you will trust me with your vote in a month.
Thank you, Joe. Jesse Danielson, you have 2 minutes for opening remarks.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for having us here today. This is a wonderful event and a good chance for the community to be engaged here in Wheat Ridge and our city council and for the television viewing audience. My name is State Representative Jesse Danielson. I've been in office for a couple of years now. A little bit about myself for those who aren't that familiar with me. I'm a 4th generation Coloradan, grew up on my family farm up in Weld County. But my grandparents lived here in Wheat Ridge since 1957, so I came to live near them. I've worked in women's rights, in voting rights, and the rights of the disabled prior to becoming elected. In my first term, I was able to get a lot done, even though we did have a split legislature and things get a little tough down there from time to time. I led the charge on equal pay for equal work. I fought for seniors' rights and got a bill passed to fight elder abuse. Worked on water conservation measures, including passing the Rain Barrel Bill. It's been my privilege to serve the folks in Wheat Ridge, Golden, and Edgewater for the last 2 years, and I sincerely hope that I become elected again. We've been able to get quite a lot done for our community here in Jefferson County, and I've been a strong voice for our community down in the state capitol. Again, my name is State Representative Jesse Danielson, and I look forward to visiting with you further.
Thank you, Jesse. You get to go first on this first question. Do you support a minimum wage increase?
Thank you. Yes, I can say that I support a raise in the minimum wage. There's a ballot initiative this fall, so we'll see what the voters have to say across the state. Things have changed a bit since I was a kid, too. The median age of a minimum wage earner is 35 years old. Trying to provide for a family on a minimum wage, even when you work full-time, is incredibly difficult. And I believe that hardworking Coloradans, if they put the time in and they work hard, should be able to earn a living wage. And it has been shown that by raising the minimum wage, that is one of the best ways to promote the working folks across our state and across the country. Put some money back in their pockets so they reinvest in the economies here locally and across Colorado.
Thank you, Jesse. Joe, do you support a minimum wage increase?
A few years ago here in Colorado, the legislature did raise the minimum wage. We actually have a higher minimum wage than the federal minimum wage. It adjusts according to the GDP of the state, which I think is a very fair system, and it seemed to work. I think raising it any further, I have a business that relies on high school kids. I have dishwashers and people who make pizzas, and when you look at some of the businesses around, they've changed the restaurant business. The quick serve restaurant has less employees, serving the same amount of food, and the service is what you lack. And you look at those and you see 4 or 5 people working, where you come to a full-service restaurant, you see 12 to 14, 15 people working for the same price of food. So I think the example that sets proves the theory that when you raise the wage, you truly will lose employees.
Thank you, Joe. Joe, you're up first on this next question. How would you address the affordable housing crisis in Jefferson County?
Well, I was on the Housing Authority here in Wheat Ridge, and the action we took while I was chair, we currently have hundreds of recently built, quality maintained, single and multifamily units in Wheat Ridge. It's sort of the trend we're following. We have new projects in development for seniors, as well as prospective state-owned land that can be leased and developed in conjunction with local housing authorities. With state and federal assistance, they can be made affordable for residents of House District 24. As with any type of development, local groups and policies are best to identify and define these needs, and the job of the state would be to support these groups and help navigate them. As far as making housing affordable, we need to lessen restrictions on industries that falsely raise the costs and availability of purchasing a home. Laws and licensure procedures have been tightened, and the result is a longer wait time for closings, along with higher costs with no realized benefits. And of course, we still have the toughest construction defect laws in the country, causing the end of the condominium and townhome market. These need to be changed to allow the contractors to fix a problem without a lawsuit, and the owners to mitigate out of court to avoid class action suits and tie-ups again in court.
Thank you, Joe. Jesse, how would you address the affordable housing crisis in Jefferson County?
Thank you. It's a really good question. I can tell you from my time in office as your state representative, affordable housing has been an issue that crosses over so many different vulnerable populations in the state. So not just seniors, but other folks that need access to housing that simply can't afford it. So when we think about how to address this issue, it really does impact quite a lot of our fellow Coloradans. Last session, we passed legislation that I co-sponsored to address the shortage of affordable housing in Colorado. We extended Colorado's successful low-income housing tax credit until 2019. This creates more affordable housing. It helped Colorado families save for their first home with first-time homebuyers' savings accounts, and will certainly help to address the issue. We also work to increase access to affordable housing by devoting money from the Unclaimed Property Tax Fund, but it was killed in the Senate. This would have provided direct assistance to the Colorado Division of Housing and the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority to expand the supply of affordable housing, a real solution that would have helped people in our county and across the state. And I intend to work on these issues going forward.
Thank you, Jesse. Jesse, how should Colorado continue our economic recovery by attracting more jobs and investments into the state? And what is your position on economic development incentives?
So we need to remember that while the state is in recovery and the economy is recouping, not everyone is feeling it yet. And so with this in mind, the bills that I worked on and the bills that we got through in the last couple of years have had those Coloradans in mind. We were actually able to get a lot done with bipartisan efforts to make sure the economic recovery continues and will reach every Colorado family and small business. We extended the Rehire program, which provides job training focused on veterans, seniors, and non-custodial parents to secure long-term employment. We also created a pilot program where school districts can receive a $1,000 bonus for each high school student who, 1, earns an industry certification tied to an in-demand job, 2, finishes a rigorous workplace training program tied to key industry needs, or 3, successfully completes a computer science AP course. We passed a bipartisan workforce development plan that I helped co-sponsor and move through the legislature that will directly benefit Coloradans seeking entrance into our workforce and build up our local and statewide economies.
Thank you, Jesse. Joe, how would should Colorado continue our economic recovery by attracting more jobs and investments into the state? And what is your position on economic development incentives?
Well, I was taught a lesson years ago by a property owner here in Wheat Ridge that continues to ring true with me, and I relay to people every day, that to be successful, we don't necessarily need to look for the cheapest rent, but look for the best market for our business. At the time, I thought he was just trying to get me to sign a huge lease, but it turns out he was right. Creating this market takes a combination of things. Bringing in customers is important. Educating the children of these customers and keeping our schools strong. Supporting initiatives to bring jobs to the region while also updating our infrastructure and improving the general quality of our lives. Reinvesting in our communities to build this market is as important as we do within our businesses and homes. Support of accountable and transparent initiatives helps us lessen the burden of our dated infrastructure and remain within the wishes and parameters of our constituents' guidelines set last year, for example, for public-private partnerships, and get those roads in place without developers' necessity for unregulated and often hidden tools. At a state level, we can continue to make sure that these tools are set in place to assure an accountable and measurable environment without overpowering government regulation and micromanagement of each and every industry. For example, it takes 4 to 6 weeks longer to get a home appraisal, and it costs 3 times what it did 2 years ago because of lengthy licensure procedures that require redundant training and certification.
Thank you, Joe. Joe, with thousands of people moving to Colorado every month, what would you do if elected to solve the transportation and infrastructure challenges that face our state?
Well, my 4 years on city council here in Wheat Ridge, I learned that it's not as easy just to say we need to make a change. We need to realize that our city staffs are working under both state and federal mandates that not only have requirements for automobile and pedestrian traffic, but also for storm runoff and stringent regulations for how to construct these roads and bridges. As the state and each city spends time and money on multimodal transportation projects and plans, it's important to keep in mind that communication and transparency must remain open with citizens and even groups like our chambers of commerce and business associations. This type of collaboration is what in business we've all strived for our whole careers, and also that makes a successful framework when developing policies that affect us all.
Thank you, Joe. Jesse, with thousands of people moving to Colorado every month, what would you do if elected to solve the transportation and infrastructure challenges that face our state?
So transportation is one of the issues that I hear most from my constituents on, frustrations getting around the state, getting in and out and around the metro area, and I'm sure that all of you can probably understand those frustrations, as I can. So we do have a lot of work to get done here. I will say that in order to better serve the community needs here in Wheat Ridge and Golden and Edgewater and the Jefferson County community, as well as across the state, including the I-70 corridor and up and down the I-25 corridor, we really need to be able to invest in this kind of effort. And so a real solution was in front of us this year in the hospital provider fee. It's something that I supported and will continue to support. We have more than 100,000 people moving to Colorado just last year alone. And our roads are bearing the brunt of the increased use. We have to prepare for what is happening now, but more importantly, what is happening down the road. So if we fail to provide our citizens with the investment that they need to be able to travel across our state, get to work, and use our infrastructure, we're doing everyone a disservice. And so, ensuring public transportation for Wheat Ridge as well as across the state is a great goal, and I'll continue to work on that. We need to get this hospital provider fee in place so that we can invest in our communities.
Thank you, Jesse. Jesse, you're up next on this question. What is your position on local control for municipality and county issues, a topic which has most recently surfaced in the discussion regarding the regulation of the oil and gas industry?
So, as I'm sure you all know, whether you're new here or have been a lifelong resident, Colorado has a long history of local control in their communities so that we we need to continue to strike the balance between policies that benefit the state, citizens all across Colorado, and the ability for you as citizens to be able to have a say in what happens in your local community. So I've served for the last 2 years on the local government committee, and it has given me real experience in striking that balance, hearing frequently from the cities and the counties on what is the best course of action on each policy that they've asked us to consider at the state level. And I have a real understanding of why it's so important to allow local communities to have a say in what happens. We also need to strike that same balance between having a patchwork of regulations that are somewhat cumbersome for industries and local people being able to make the decisions that are best for them, especially when it comes to health and safety. So in regards to the second part of your question around oil and gas, that's how I have made my decisions so far and will continue to do. I hear from constituents on a daily basis that they feel the need to have a say in what happens at the local level. And so that is the balance that I hope to strike between that and the health and safety of the residents of the rest of the state.
Thank you, Jesse. Joe, what is your position on local control for municipality and county issues, a topic which has most recently surfaced in the discussion regarding the regulation of the oil and gas industry?
Well, local control isn't just policy on paper, but it's truly the fingerprint and identities of our communities. There isn't a district in the state that better shows the small town strive for local control than Edgewater, Mountain View, Lakeside, Golden, Wheat Ridge, and even the parts of this district that are happily unincorporated within the county. Literally a patchwork of local issues defining our communities, built over the last century. These cities define why we have the home rule law, and we need to not only fight to keep that, but be aware when we write state legislation. It's not just saying that I think local control is important, but being aware of it while making policy is incredibly important. Knowing the history of how and why our cities were formed, and more importantly, what we were trying to accomplish. Being a native of this community gives me an advantage by knowing this history, knowing how these decisions will again affect these families, incredibly important to me. This kind of knowledge will take precedent in my decisions and discussions. Having 2 children in Jeffco schools, I witness daily and appreciate the school board's ability to keep and set our own policy and curriculum standards, as well as work with a diverse learning environment. And just in any industry, as the oil and gas industry, we must remain aware of laws that erode the ability of local control.
Thank you, Joe. Joe, what are your policy priorities if elected?
Well, being in business my entire working life here in the district, I can attest to the current difficult work environment. I intend to focus on job retention for our leading markets and businesses in the state. The difficulty of business is compounded by the fact that making a 5 or 6 year plan these days is nothing short of comical. Having and sharing information on current markets and salaries and possible tax relief situations for young and new employees may keep them assured that they are being treated fairly and truly making a difference in their fields.
Thank you, Joe. Somebody put me in the dark here. I think that might have been a hint. Jesse, what are your policy priorities if elected?
Thank you. So if I'm reelected, I will continue to work on expanding and strengthening the middle class. I will make it easier to get a high-paying job. Supporting small businesses, cutting red tape, these small businesses are the backbone of our economy. Working towards a good, quality public education, we are proud of Jeffco Public Schools, and I'm a product of the public school system, like I said, up in Weld County. I intend to support the public school system and their needs so that we continue to provide what is a right for each of our kids in our county and across the state to access quality education. Improving public transportation, so again, making it easier for folks to get in and around the metro area as well as throughout our beautiful state. Fighting for seniors, as you know, and it's been mentioned earlier today, our state is aging more rapidly than the rest of the country, and Jeffco, because it is such a wonderful place to live, is aging more rapidly than Coloradans in general. We need to be able to have the infrastructure and services in place for people to live at home independently, and I'll continue on that path. I've also fought for veterans issues, and I will continue to do so. We have a lot of veterans living here in Jefferson County. They protect our future, our freedoms, and we owe them everything. So those are some of the issues I will
Thank you, Jessie.
continue working on. Thanks.
That ends our questions for you. Jessie, you have 1 minute for closing remarks.
Thank you so much. I want to thank the Wheat Ridge Business Association and both the Wheat Ridge and Golden Chambers of Commerce for having us here today. Thanks to the audience and to my fellow candidates. It's been a real pleasure being here this morning, and it has certainly been a pleasure serving Wheat Ridge and Jefferson County at the state capitol. In the 2 years that I've been elected, I've been able to provide for standards for sexual assault on college campuses. I have passed a bill to fight elder abuse. I've worked on water conservation issues. I have provided, I've cut red tape for veterans coming back from their service to get jobs in our communities. And I've led the charge in the fight for equal pay for equal work. I will continue to work on ways that we can expand and strengthen the middle class and fight for Coloradans every day. I feel so very privileged to serve the Wheat Ridge, Edgewater, and Golden communities, and I look forward to continuing to serve as your state representative. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our candidates for House Representatives District 24. Thank you so much for being here. Joe, sorry, I almost forgot you.
You know what? A nice cool morning like this, I'm hoping there's a lot of people wanting to eat some pizza, so I have to get to work. So I just want to say thank you and then leave it with that. Thank you.
Joe, you have 1 minute for
That's
closing
okay.
remarks.
I'm good. Thank you.
You good? I'm so sorry. So thank you so much, the State House of Representatives, District 24, Jessie Danielson, and Joseph DeMott. We appreciate you being here.
See you, Joe. Take care.
Now I'd like to invite up to the table Dan McMenemy and Laura Boggs. They are going to present to you the support and opposing positions of 3A and 3B.
Whichever one's good. Doesn't matter. Just came from different sides. Good to see you.
All right, thank you so much. And both microphones are on there? Laura, is your microphone on?
There we go.
There we go. Okay. Dan, would you please present to us the support position on 3A and 3B? You have 15 minutes.
Thank you. I'm Dan McMenemy. I'm the superintendent of schools for Jeffco Schools. I'm here on my personal time today to share information about the upcoming bond and mill election with you. First off, I'd say our community expects and deserves to have excellent schools. Our kids deserve to have outstanding teachers and support staff, great facilities, and the resources necessary to learn and grow to their full potential. We're having a hard time meeting those expectations. To understand our need, let's start out with a little background. First off, state funding is abysmal. On a continual decline since 1987, Colorado is currently 40th in the nation in per pupil revenue on a yearly basis. We're about $2,200 less than the national average. If we were funded at the national average in Colorado, we would have another $190 million per year to spend on our facilities, our students, and our staff. For the past 2 years, I've worked with 177 other superintendents across the state of Colorado to lobby the legislature for adequate funding with virtually no success. This fall, you are seeing the results of this lack of progress with our legislators across Colorado as a record number of school districts, 50 and counting, are going out to their communities for bonds and mills. Current state funding is simply not adequate to deliver on the promise of a high-quality public education. On November 8th, we have an opportunity to take matters into our own hands in Jefferson County. So let's talk about our competitiveness with Front Range school districts. Of the 13 major school districts around us, we are second in size at 86,000 kids. We're second in the number of schools with 155 schools. We're 9th out of 13 in per pupil revenue from the state, about $500 less than Denver. Well, in Jefferson County, every $100 equals approximately $8.6 million. So immediately, from state funding, we're $43 million less per year to serve our students. We're 6th out of 13 in mill levy override per student, approximately $800 less than Boulder. If we had the same funding as Boulder, we'd have $64 million more to spend on our students in mill levy override dollars. We're 13th out of 13 in bond dollars spent per student. If we had the same as Denver, we'd have $977 million more to spend on our facilities. If we had the same funding as Boulder County, we'd have $1.15 billion more to spend on our facilities. Now, I'm not here today to ask for a tax increase of $1.15 billion. I recognize that's not realistic, but I share these numbers with you because I'm sure you can imagine this creates tremendous disparities and lack of competitiveness in our ability to attract and retain staff, to provide the resources and opportunities for our students, and to have the facilities necessary to provide a safe, high-quality experience for our kids. We have 155 schools. The average age of the buildings in Jefferson County is 45 years old. We have 239 portables we use to manage students at our elementary schools. Only 5 of those were built after 1988. Virtually all of our schools have long and overdue needs in terms of repairs and improvements. The $535 million bond is about providing safe and high-quality learning environments for our students and staff, extending the life of our existing schools, and better utilization of our current district facilities. The facility plan that drives this bond and all it entails is on our website, jeffcopublicschools.org. It is basically broken into 4 broad areas. First of all, K-5 to 6-8 grade configuration. Moving students into our middle schools allows us to take advantage of the capacity that we have at those schools while providing a high-quality education for those students and getting kids out of those portables that we're using at our elementary schools. There's a growth and equity portion in our facilities master plan that takes care of not only the growth in Northwest Arvada and the Solterra region, but also going back into our existing schools and bringing those up to the specs that we all expect our students deserve. There's an efficiencies piece that goes back into our existing facilities and takes care of long overdue deferred maintenance needs. And then finally, there's a deferred maintenance piece that takes some of our older buildings offline. In addition, there's 10%, or approximately $53 million, that's going to be allocated to our charter schools who have many of the same or similar needs that we've identified in our facility master plan. All of the projects in the bond are approved in the facilities master plan, and every dollar is allocated to specific purpose to meet the needs of 86,000 kids that are in our schools every single minute of every single day. The $33 million mill will provide additional operational dollars in 3 specific targeted areas identified last year through the budgeting process in the spring as unmet needs. First of all, compensation for staff to attract and retain quality educators. Secondly, additional dollars to support resource needs at our schools tied to our student-based budgeting system. These might be programs or materials that our students need in our individual schools. You heard the legislators talk about increasing STEM education, providing opportunities for school-to-career type activities. Those are the targets of these additional dollars. We would also like to provide additional counseling services at our elementary schools to get on the prevention side of school safety rather than the reaction side. We felt it was important to balance the mill as we have multiple needs across the system. For instance, if we would have asked all of the mill, or for a larger mill, to address compensation issues, we would have been criticized for failing to address the student needs that we have. We felt a balanced approach was better in the mill. So now let's talk about the financing model. As a school district, just like every other school district around us, we have multiple debt obligations. Since 1952, Jeffco Schools has had approximately 33 mill and bond elections of varying levels. 18 of those have been successful. We currently have 3 outstanding debts: the 1997 election, which was a $265 million bond, the 1999 election, which was $25 million, the 2004 election, which was $324 million and $38.5 million on a mill levy, which coincidentally, if you translated that into 2016 dollars, that would have been above a $610 million ask. And the 2012 election, which was $99 million and $39 million on a mill levy. The 99 was used for what was called warm, safe, and dry. That was to go into our existing facilities and bring them back up to speed with boilers and roofs and parking lots and things of that nature. Jeffco has had no additional square footage since 2004. As you know, we have some high growth areas in our district. We have 4 goals in our finance model with our multiple obligations that we're trying to meet. First of all, goal number 1 is to mitigate tax impact for our taxpayers. Secondly is to match long-term useful life of our facilities with debt obligations. Thirdly, we try to have consistent tax burdens in our existing models based on our debt. And lastly, we want to capitalize on the markets for the greatest benefit of our taxpayer. Every year we take a look at our debt and we reissue or renew those debt obligations to try to make it as favorable as possible for our taxpayers. In 2012, Jeffco paid off past debt, dropping our debt service to about $50 million per year from approximately $73 million the year before. I believe this provides us an opportunity in this excellent financial market to take care of our burgeoning needs with minimal impact to the individual taxpayer. This bond and mill together will cost the taxpayer $4.12 per $100,000 of assessed value per month. We believe it's a reasonable ask of our community to continue to do the great things that we've done in our schools for over 60 years. We have exhausted virtually every avenue to continue to provide the quality of education we all expect our students to receive from our school district. The return on investment for Jeffco families has been excellent. Jeffco graduates of the class of 2016 received scholarship offers totaling over $80 million. In 2012, that number was $54 million. That shows that people value the product that's coming out of Jefferson County schools. Jeffco Public Schools currently has 22 students in the list of semifinalists for the National Merit Semifinalist Program. In April, Jeffco had 8 high schools named in the U.S. News Top 50 High Schools in Colorado. In a recent report regarding ACT scores, Colorado was compared to 13 other states across the United States that test 100% of their juniors. You see, not all 50 states test everyone. Colorado tied with Illinois at number 1 in the nation for the highest composite score of those states that test all juniors. The average ACT scores for English, reading, science, and the overall composite score reached their highest level in 5-year trend reports. In Jeffco, our ACT performance exceeds the state across all indicators. That makes us better than number 1 in the nation on ACT performance in states in which all students are assessed. 2016 CMAS results were positive for Jeffco, with students outperforming the state once again in 18 of 19 grade level tests. Our 2016 CMAS growth results for ELA and math indicated that Jeffco exceeds state typical growth in math and is 1 percentile short of the state average on ELA. Our graduation rates are the highest they've ever been, and our dropout rate is low. We need to work together for the common good, for our students, for our future. We want to continue to be an excellent school system, and we would appreciate your support for 3B. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. And presenting the opposition to 3A, 3B today is Laura Boggs. You have 15 minutes, Laura.
Thanks, Dot, and I want to thank you all for coming out this morning to learn more about this very important issue. I want to thank our hosts. It's a great opportunity for us to have a conversation. You know, no one got up this morning and said, hey, I'm going to watch television today, or I'm going to go to a meeting today and vote against schools. Did anybody in here do that? Anybody do that? I didn't. But I want you to consider a few facts which, in my opinion, make this proposal not good for our kids, not good for our teachers, not good for our businesses, and not good for our communities. You see, where Dan and I agree is that we have huge needs in this county. In fact, upwards of $1 billion of facility needs, from roofs to heating and cooling systems to the need to fix sidewalks. So there is a huge need in Jefferson County. It's nice to be back here in Wheat Ridge. I have 2 farmer graduates who've gone off to college, so I know great things happen in Jefferson County Public Schools every day. But this proposal will put us at a significant disadvantage. And I want to share a few facts with you for your consideration as you decide to vote on this billion, yes, I said billion, dollar tax ask. I'm going to encourage you to read your ballot. While the bond is a $535 million bond ask, it will cost us as taxpayers $987.22 million to pay it off. Now, I've had a lot of conversations with you all, and you all have given me permission, because that's close enough to $1 billion, to call this a $1 billion ask. That billion-dollar ask has some significant challenges. We look at that nearly billion-dollar need in our community schools. Half of this bond issue does not, does not go to fixing those identified needs. Of that $535 million, in fact, $100 million of it will go to build additional classrooms to move sixth graders from our elementary schools to our middle schools. Now, I know for some of us it's been a long time since we had elementary students, so I'll remind you that in most places in Jefferson County, our elementary schools are K-6 buildings, our middle schools house our 7th and 8th graders, and our high schools, as we all know, are 9-12s. This proposal forces the majority of our 6th graders into our middle schools. I would encourage you all to look at the research. The research tells us that 6th graders in middle schools have more discipline problems and lower academic achievement. In Jefferson County, some of our highest performing grade levels in our schools are 6th graders. When you move those 6th graders to middle schools, they get great opportunities to take tech ed or German, and certainly we would stream literacy through those electives, but they literally lose literacy hours. In elementary schools, they have a reading block and a writing block. We take science, social studies, math, and then an elective, right? PE, gym, right? Or arts or music. And in most of our elementary schools, students rotate through those. When they go to middle school, those electives take a whole period, so their literacy hours go down. So we need to ask ourselves, should we be spending $100 million to move our 6th graders into middle school? In addition, there's $30 million in this proposal for secondary gyms, turf fields. Now, I had a 3-sport athlete right here at Wheat Ridge High School, and I appreciate the athletic facilities we have in this district, but $30 million when we have nearly $1 billion in facility needs. And then we have 22% that's not even allocated. That will go to fees and services and could potentially be there for cost overruns. So half of this bond issue does not fix the identified needs. Second, let's talk about the capacity in our schools. We certainly know that there are growing areas in Jefferson County, and we heard earlier this morning that there are 1,000 people moving to Colorado every month. It's a great place to live. But there are 15,000 empty seats in Jeffco schools. I know many of you will remember my face from the arguments and discussions and passions we brought to the table in 2010 when we talked about facilities after a year-long process before. And I fought hard to keep Martinson Elementary open because I support our neighborhood small schools. But if we end up building these additional classrooms onto middle schools and elementary schools, in addition to the 15,000 empty seats we already have, and the 2,000 additional seats that have been added with Candelas, the addition to Sierra, I want you to think about what happens to the 24 elementary schools that will have under 300 students. You know, when this conversation first started this spring, the school board discussed closing and consolidating many of our smaller schools. If we end up with that much unused capacity, what decisions will school boards be forced to make in the future? I also want to talk about the financing model as the third part that I want you to consider. You know, we've all had the opportunity to rent our homes or buy our homes, and we know that the housing values in Jefferson County have gone up, raising our tax burdens. Dan's right, we have a number of bonds outstanding already. And we are in some of the lowest interest rate periods we've ever seen in this country. But the financing model that's on this table, as I said before, burdens us as taxpayers with nearly $1 billion payoff. If we made flat annual payments over the 25-year term of this bond, we'd pay about $30 million a year. When Dan talks about $4.12, he's not talking about the total payoff. Because you see, we're going to underpay this bond for the first 10 years. Now, many of you remember the 2008 recession caused by balloon payments in the housing market. This essentially does exactly the same thing. That's why it's a $1 billion payoff. You see, I'd encourage you to go look for your smartest math child and ask them to run a calculator on a $535 million bond at 3%. And he or she will tell you that there is $200 million in interest payments in this proposal that we shouldn't have to make. Because of that underpayment for the first 10 years, we're going to be paying interest on top of interest. For my money, that $200 million should be back in that $1 billion need in our facilities. So it's not good for our kids. We place the majority of that burden of paying that debt off on our children. Now I want to transition for a little while and talk about the mill levy override request, that $33 million a year that they're going to ask for year after year. Because you see, I agree that our teachers and our staff deserve higher salaries, and we should be competitive with the neighboring districts. In fact, I think we should be competitive nationally. Districts like Virginia, some in Tennessee and Massachusetts, have some of the most outstanding teachers in the country. Our teachers in Jefferson County compete with them every day. And we should be attracting the best from all around the country. But this proposal does not do that. Such a small percent of this $33 million goes into staff compensation that there's not even enough for a cost of living raise. It is one step and level move. In fact, I was talking to a teacher yesterday who shared that the raise she got last year, while appreciated, was about $300. Unfortunately, her health care costs went up about $1,000. You see, for my money, that $200 million we're going to waste would be better placed, again in facilities and supporting salaries for our staffs and our teachers. I know a number of our para-educators spent good time last spring talking to our board about the lack of salaries making a living wage for them. They don't make enough to have a living wage. For my money, we should be sending our school board a serious message to vote no on this, send them back to the drawing board, and ask them to come to us with a proposal that respects our staff, supports our students, and is good for our communities. Now I'm going to spend 1 minute on our businesses, because as you've heard this morning, about 80% of the employers in Jefferson County are small businesses. I had the opportunity to speak to a number of business owners over the last 5 months, and I'm going to share one story which really tugged at my heart. I was in Arvada with a small business owner who runs a small manufacturing company, and we were talking about this bond issue and the mill levy override and what it will do to his business. You see, he's an employer, and he does have employees with good paying jobs, and that's what I believe, in addition to great schools and the wonderful playground we have in Jefferson County, makes this such a desirable place to live. But when those payments are $72 million, which I encourage you to read your ballots when they come, and it will say that, his burden will be $25,000 a year. $25,000 a year. He looked at me and said, Mrs. Boggs, I'll have to lay people off. I don't know where that $25,000 is going to come from. You know, our home values are already up. Jefferson County has spent more money year over year, every year for the last 5 years. Again, we do great things in our school districts, especially right here in Jefferson County. But they have over $1 billion a year budget. That's what we spend in Jefferson County on our public schools. This ask is not good for our kids. It's not good for our teachers. It's not good for our businesses, and it's not good for our community. In addition, our enrollment in Jefferson County has been flat for the last decade. Certainly there are pockets of growth. Absolutely there are pockets of growth. In fact, enrollment in our district-run schools has been declining over the last decade, while enrollment in our charter schools has increased. I ask you to thoughtfully consider whether spending $1 billion when less than half of it goes to support the facility needs that have been identified is really an effective and efficient utilization of our resources. I want you all to take a minute and think about your favorite 10-year-old. I have one, my niece. And I think about my niece, and 15 years from now, when she's 25, and I want her to come back to Jefferson County after her adventures in high school, whether that's college or traveling the world or apprenticeships. And you know, I want her to live in our neighborhoods. I know many of you want the same thing for your children and your grandchildren. But in 15 years, the burden of the financing structure for this tax initiative will be so unbearable, we have to ask ourselves, will our children and our grandchildren be able to afford to live here? I want you to now think about your favorite grandma or grandpa who may need to make a housing change in the next 10 years. When they sell their primary residence, will they be able to afford to buy housing right here in Jefferson County? I want you to thoughtfully consider. This is a very, very long ballot. We in Colorado are being asked to weigh heavily a very large number of issues. I'm going to ask you, turn that ballot over. This, in all likelihood, will be on the bottom and or back of your ballot. Be thoughtful in your consideration of whether or not $1 billion tax ask with $200 million in interest payments we don't need to make is the right thing for our county. Be thoughtful about a $33 million increase that does not make us competitive is the way we want to spend money. Our children deserve better. Our teachers and staff deserve better. Our community and business owners deserve better. I ask you to vote no on 3A and 3B. Send this back to our school board and ask them to send us something that really is good for our kids, our staff, our community, and our business owners. Thank you for having me.
Thank you to Dan and Laura for taking the time to be here today and educating all of us on 3A, 3B. Thank you.
Thanks, Dot.
At this time, would Roger Lesher and Bud Starker please join me to talk about ballot initiative 2E?
Hello, Bud. Roger, how are you? I'm okay as far as I know.
But I don't think your microphone is on. Thank you.
How's that?
There you go. All right, so presenting the support initiative for 2E is Bud Starker. And Bud, you have 15 minutes to tell us about the ballot initiative.
Thank you, Dot. My name is Bud Starker, and I'm here today on behalf of Yes Wheat Ridge to ask you to vote yes on ballot question 2E. I'd like to thank the Wheat Ridge Chamber of Commerce, the Wheat Ridge Business Association, and the Golden Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event today and giving me the opportunity to speak to my neighbors about the ways 2E will allow us to protect Wheat Ridge's legacy and invest in our future. I've lived in Wheat Ridge for 40 years. I own a local business. I've served on the Wheat Ridge City Council, and I continue to be an active member of my community. My house was built almost 100 years ago, and because I love my home, value its history, and want it to stay strong in the future, I keep investing in my home maintenance and make needed improvements. This summer I put on a new roof to protect our home and our primary investment. In the same way, we can maintain and improve our city we love by voting yes on ballot question 2E. Ballot question 2E would allow us to invest in 4 projects that will produce long-term economic benefits for our city. It asks us to approve a 0.5% sales tax increase for a set period of time, not to exceed 12 years. This is just a nickel for every $10 purchase, and that nickel will allow us to accomplish great things in our city. Let's talk about the 4 projects that would be supported by a yes vote on 2E. The idea for these projects started with our community members. A volunteer citizen task force was formed, made up of 2 residents from each of our 4 council districts. This task force reviewed and prioritized a long list of unmet infrastructure needs. The citizen task force worked with the city council to prioritize 4 specific projects that are important to the economic health, safety, and vitality of our city. These are income-producing investments, which means that when completed, these projects will have long-term economic benefits for Wheat Ridge, producing ongoing tax income that will allow us to take care of things that our city needs. Voting yes on 2E will provide us with needed sidewalks, crossings, and lights so that we can better access the new RTD Gold Line commuter rail station at Ward Road. These improvements would include reconstruction of the adjacent streets, installation of a needed traffic signal, and building a pedestrian bridge over the rail tracks. Making this investment in the commuter rail station will contribute to the livability and attractiveness of Wheat Ridge for our residents and businesses, reducing traffic by providing alternative ways for our citizens to commute to work. Voting yes on 2E will allow us to make long overdue improvements to Anderson Park, which is our most utilized public park and home to some of our community's most beloved events. The investments will include updates to the Anderson building to replace the leaking roof and renovate the locker room. We will be able to reconstruct the sports fields, build a new park pavilion and shelter, and make additional improvements to help support the Carnation Festival and other events at this park. Voting yes on 2E will provide improved road connections to new shopping, dining, employment centers, and housing that is planned for the Clear Creek crossing. These changes are made to our publicly owned roads, I-70 and West 32nd Avenue, to allow us to access these new projects, successfully connecting our citizens and visitors to shopping, dining, employment, and housing will help generate needed, sustainable sales tax revenue in the future for our city. And finally, we desperately need to make Wadsworth Boulevard better for all of us. Voting yes on 2E will reduce traffic congestion and give those that are driving, walking, or biking safer ways to travel along Wadsworth. These improvements will support existing businesses along Wadsworth and encourage new investment in our community. The Wadsworth reconstruction will run from West 35th Avenue to I-70 and include additional vehicle travel lane in each direction, sidewalks, tree lawns, and a bike lane on one side. Voting yes on 2E will allow us to access up to $38 million in state and federal grants to improve Wadsworth Boulevard. These state and federal dollars come from taxes that everyone, including Wheat Ridge citizens, have been paying over the years. If we don't vote yes on 2E to provide our share of the funding, the grant money will go to another city. 2E allows us to keep these dollars right here in Wheat Ridge to benefit our community and our citizens. Traffic along Wadsworth Boulevard is already challenging, and unfortunately, many citizens avoid Wadsworth and the businesses along Wadsworth for that reason. This traffic is projected to increase by 40% by the year 2040. There's no question that we need to widen and improve Wadsworth, and we get a much better deal if we can act now and access the state and federal grants for this project. Otherwise, this money goes away and will be given to another city for another project, and Wheat Ridge will lose out. Our city has the highest regard for our local businesses, and there have already been public information sessions and much private outreach done with local businesses along Wadsworth. Over time, the city and local business owners have already reached a great deal of consensus around the Wadsworth plan, and more discussions will happen in the future. Concrete steps will be taken to compensate property owners for any land that is reallocated due to road widening, and the project will include reworking and upgrading parking lots for some businesses. Since it is very expensive to fully take a property, the project will avoid that whenever possible, but all affected property owners will be fully compensated and assisted with relocation if necessary. The city and CDOT will work hand in hand with business and property owners to make Wadsworth improvements go as smoothly as possible, and these improvements are something that is necessary to keep Wadsworth functional as a main transit corridor in our city. These 4 projects, and only these 4 projects, will be funded by a yes vote on 2E. One of the great things about this ballot question is that it has accountability written right into it. The ballot language itself spells out exactly which projects will be funded by this community investment, and the city's treasurer will create a separate accounting system to manage the funds from 2E. The ballot language also clearly states that the 0.5% sales tax increase is time limited. It will end after 12 years or once the designated funds are raised, whichever comes first. This process of a temporary sales tax increase is what we use to fund the new recreation center, and it worked very well. It's important to be clear that this is a temporary sales tax increase of just a nickel on $10 purchase. It will not affect your property tax rate. The great news is that it's estimated that about half of our sales taxes are paid by people who don't live in Wheat Ridge. So our visitors will be helping us to pay for these improvements. This nickel investment is a great deal for Wheat Ridge citizens. Our sales tax rate is currently below the average of nearby cities. Approving this temporary increase will barely bring our sales tax rate in line with the average. It is not unusual for cities to pass these kind of tax increases to fund maintenance and improvement projects. A yes vote on 2E shows that Wheat Ridge residents know that we live in a place that deserves this investment. As a small business owner, I'm familiar with the concept of investment. It's something we all do all of the time, whether we realize it or not. We give a little now because we know it will lead to a greater return in the future. We invest by sending our children to school. We invest in relationships. We invest in our homes. We invest in our careers, and we invest in our businesses. Investing is not a Wall Street or a political term. It's part of our day-to-day lives. Voting yes on 2E gives us a practical way that we can invest together in the city that we love. Our Wheat Ridge community is like a family, and sometimes, like any family, we have disagreements about important issues. But 2E has broad support because it's the right investment for Wheat Ridge. Our city council, all 8 members, support a yes vote on 2E, along with the mayor and the city treasurer. Many of our citizens and business owners have joined together to ask their neighbors to vote yes on 2E. Together, this broad community knows that this is a valuable, smart investment to allow improvements to the places we love and supports new spots for our community to enjoy. I've lived in Wheat Ridge for a long time. I've been lucky to see our city grow while still retaining its quiet charm and rural roots. We built our city. We've built our roads, our bridges, and our homes. It's important that we continue to build smartly to keep Wheat Ridge strong and safe. We have a great city, and this is an opportunity to continue the good work we've done in the past. I stand with my neighbors in asking you to vote yes on 2E and support a Wheat Ridge that is great today, better tomorrow. To learn more about Yes Wheat Ridge and ballot question 2E, please visit our website, yeswheatridge.org. You can also follow Yes Wheat Ridge on Facebook for updates. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bud. And presenting the opposition today is Roger Lesher. Roger, you have 15 minutes.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Roger Lasher. I'm a resident, a business owner, and a property owner in Wheat Ridge. And just so you know, I do have a dog in the fight. Just as my wife, my children, my grandchildren, as did my father-in-law and his father. The family history goes back before 1900. The Neighborhood Gazette says, Wadsworth Development, 35th to I-70, 2 10-foot wide sidewalks, 2 10-foot tree lawns, 1 10-foot bike lane, and a 17-foot median. That's 67 feet. 43rd to 44th on Wadsworth is 900 feet long. 900 times 67 feet is 60,300 square feet. That has a potential of a 20,000 square foot for development. That does not include the other 8 blocks in the project. In the heart of the business district between 38th and 44th on Tennyson, the 10-foot wide sidewalk contains a tree line, a place to tie your dog with a pan of water, two-way bicycle travel, pedestrian travel, and I even saw 2 couples pushing strollers past each other going in opposite direction. Wheat Ridge wants to dedicate 35.5 feet to the same scenario. What's wrong with this picture? The city says widening Wadsworth will move traffic and increase economic development. Yet they say skinning down 38th Avenue will slow traffic and increase economic development. Are you as confused about this as I am? The city is pushing for CFI on Wadsworth, continuous flow intersections, which will move more traffic, so they say. But it will eat up more commercial property and set hundreds, maybe even thousands of cars through residential neighborhoods. You know the problem that 38th has caused. I thought adding more lanes to Wadsworth was supposed to take care of traffic movement. Why am I against only a ½ cent tax? Because when you add it all up, it comes to $71 million project. And that's a tax package, not counting interest and maybe some cost overruns. I don't trust this council to do what the voters have asked them to do. No on 38th has been said over and over again, but they still keep pushing against the people. There's too much money on the table that we put into pet projects, and some projects are designed to create monuments for city departments. I am for economic development, economic growth, revitalization, and upgrading the city, because we do need it. But I'm asking you to vote no, so the city can come back with a better project the next time. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Since I've got a couple more minutes, how's this for things to think about? Have you ever seen a shopper on a bike on a 10-foot sidewalk with a 42-inch TV set in the basket? How about a bike with a week's worth of groceries in the basket? Have you ever been on the bike or pedestrian path when it was too crowded? How about driving down Wadsworth and thinking, it's too hard to getting in and out of the shopping area. I'll just drive down to Lakewood or Wheat Ridge. How about the economic growth that after spending thousands of dollars changing the Wheat Ridge logo on a rainbow wonder type motif? And I think it just means, wonder what that means. Wasted money. A no vote on 2A is a good way to start the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger and Bud, for being with us today and presenting both sides of the issue. We really appreciate you. Thank you to our audience for being here. And that concludes our forum today. Thank you for taking the time to meet the candidates, as well as hearing both sides of all of the initiatives that you will be voting on. Thank you again to our audience for coming out. We appreciate you. Thank you to the Wheat Ridge Chamber of Commerce, the Wheat Ridge Business Association, and the Golden Chamber of Commerce for hosting this forum, and to the City of Wheat Ridge for allowing us to use their space. We are going to take a brief recess before I read the next 9 ballot initiatives. Thank you again. Treated with dignity. Removing the language reflects fundamental values of freedom and equality and makes an important symbolic statement. There are 25 other states that do not have any language related to slavery and involuntary servitude in their constitutions, and both prison work and community service programs are able to operate within those states. The argument against Amendment T may result in legal uncertainty around current offender work practices in the state. Prison work requirements provide structure and propose for offenders while enabling skill building and helping to reduce recidivism. Community service programs allow offenders to engage with community and make amends for their crimes. So that is Amendment T. Amendment U proposes amending the Colorado Constitution to beginning with tax year 2018, eliminate property taxes for individuals or businesses that use government-owned property for a private benefit worth $6,000 or less in market value, and beginning with tax year 2019 and every 2 years thereafter, adjust the $6,000 exemption threshold to account for inflation. The argument for Amendment U reduces the administrative burden for collecting a tax that in many cases costs more to collect than it brings into local governments. For example, the majority of possessory interests in the state are for agricultural leases, many of which are charged less than $10 in property taxes. The cost of administrating this tax, mailing notices, maintaining tax rolls, and collecting and enforcing the tax often exceed this amount. The argument against Amendment U provides an unfair tax break for businesses and individuals who use government-owned land for their private beneficial benefit. The private financial benefit. That didn't make sense. And puts a greater tax burden on others to pay for local government services. These property taxes should continue to be collected uniformly from all taxpayers. A small tax bill does not justify exempting businesses or individuals from paying the tax on a private benefit that they enjoy on government land. And that's Amendment U. Amendment 69. Amendment 69 proposes amending the Colorado Constitution to establish Colorado Care, a statewide system to finance health care services for Colorado residents, create new taxes on most sources of income, redirecting existing state taxes and federal health funding to pay for the services and administration of Colorado Care, exempt Colorado Care from constitutional limits on revenue, and require approval by Colorado residents for future tax increases. It establishes a board of trustees, initially appointed and then elected, to oversee the operations of Colorado Care. And it allows the board to terminate Colorado Care if the waivers, exemptions, and agreements from the federal tax government are not sufficient for its fiscally sound operation. The arguments for. Amendment 69 creates a more equitable health care payment system that provides coverage for all Coloradans. All people should have access to affordable health care regardless of their ability to pay. The current health care system leaves many people uninsured or unable to access care due to insurance denials or high deductibles. Colorado Care prohibits deductibles and may reduce financial barriers to needed care. The measure helps ensure that individuals and families will not face financial ruin when accessing needed health care services. Amendment 69 offers a means to control health care costs and improve patient outcomes. In the United States, health care costs are higher than in any other industrialized country. Under Amendment 69, health care costs should be controlled by lowering administrative costs, adjusting payment rates to health care providers, and reducing the amount of unpaid care provided to health care providers. By creating a centralized system for healthcare records, Colorado Care may improve the coordination of care and create cost savings by more efficiently sharing information between providers, monitoring medical conditions, and reducing diagnostic testing. Colorado Care provides a more transparent system that serves the interests of Coloradans instead of interests of private corporations. The current private health insurance system is profit motivated, which contributes to the rising healthcare costs. Colorado Care offers an alternative that shifts incentive toward improving patient care by allowing Coloradans to elect healthcare decision makers. Under Amendment 69, Coloradans also have control over tax increases for Colorado Care, increasing local control over healthcare costs. Unlike private insurance companies, Colorado Care board meetings are subject to open meeting laws, which allows Coloradans to monitor decisions made by the board. Arguments against. Amendment 69 imposes new taxes, which may harm Colorado economy by burdening taxpayers and eliminating jobs. The tax increase under this measure will nearly double the state's spending, which currently totals $27 billion for the entire state budget. In the initial tax years, taxpayers will pay about $2 billion a year into a system without receiving any direct benefits. Many individuals and businesses will pay more with the new taxes than they are currently paying for health care. Additionally, taxpayers must pay the new taxes even if they do not utilize the service offered through Colorado Care. Under Amendment 69, higher taxes and an uncertain economic climate could discourage businesses from operating in Colorado. Finally, Colorado Care may cause private health insurance businesses to downsize or leave the state, leaving many people unemployed. Amendment 69 offers no guarantee that Colorado Care will improve patient care, expand access, or reduce health care costs. Coloradans may never receive a benefit promised under Colorado Care if federal approval is not guaranteed for revenues and if revenues are not sufficient. The measure does not specify critical details of how Colorado Care will be implemented and has no required implementation date. The measure concentrates control for making important decisions and spending billions of taxpayer dollars in a 21-member board with limited accountability and no required health insurance experience. Colorado Care may not solve fundamental problems of rising healthcare costs and limited access. If the state fully transitions to Colorado Care and it fails, it could take years to reestablish a private health insurance market and government programs, and taxpayers will have paid billions of dollars for a failed system. Colorado Care may limit consumer choice and strain the healthcare system. Healthcare providers may be unwilling to serve Colorado Care patients if reimbursements are too low, or they may choose to leave Colorado due to uncertainties in the healthcare market. This could reduce options for patients and increase wait times to receive services. Also, the healthcare system could be further burdened by people coming to the state to receive healthcare without adequately contributing to the taxes that pay for the care. If the system fails to control costs, health services covered by Colorado Care may be reduced. Additionally, private health insurance may not be available or affordable if Amendment 69 passes. This could leave people with limited options for accessing alternative coverages and needed care, forcing some people to leave the state. And that's Amendment 69. There's a lot of pages for Amendment 69, bear with me. Amendment 70. We just lost our last participating audience member. Amendment 70 proposes amending the Colorado Constitution to increase the state minimum wage from $8.31 to $9.30 per hour beginning January 1st, 2017. Increase the minimum wage annually by 90 cents per hour beginning January 1st, 2018 until it reaches $12 per hour on January 1st, 2020. And on January 1st, 2021 and thereafter, adjust the minimum wage each year based on cost of living increases. This is Amendment 70. Argument 4. Colorado's current minimum wage is too low to provide a basic standard of living for some workers. Full-time workers making the minimum wage in Colorado earn approximately $17,285 annually, or about $300 per week after taxes, and some rely on public assistance to make ends meet. While minimum wage has increased only 21% since 2007, when the last voter-approved increase in the minimum wage went into effect, prices for the basic necessities such as health care and housing have increased more steeply. For example, the overall average of monthly rent in the Denver metro area has increased by 37%, from approximately $946 in 2007 to about $1,292 in 2015. Raising the minimum wage may help businesses. Higher wages may improve employee productivity and morale and reduce turnover. This is especially important for businesses that pay the minimum wage, as they tend to have very high turnover. Hiring and training new employees can be very costly for businesses. Lower turnover translates to more experienced, more productive workers and significant cost savings. The arguments against. Increasing the state minimum wage may actually hurt the very employees that the higher wage is meant to help. If Amendment 70 passes, some workers earning the minimum wage may face layoffs, reduced hours, or fewer benefits. Also, workers seeking minimum wage employment may have a harder time finding work if businesses make fewer minimum wage jobs available. Finally, businesses may choose to raise prices. Because low-wage workers spend a higher percentage of their income on basic necessities like food, they are particularly vulnerable to rising prices. Increasing the state's minimum wage may hurt small and family-owned businesses, particularly in rural communities, where the cost of living is lower and economic recovery has been slow compared to urban areas. Businesses in rural communities have a harder time absorbing increasing costs and may struggle to pay higher costs if the minimum wage increases, which may further distress the economy in rural Colorado. And that is Amendment 70. Amendment 71. Let's see. Where does it start? There we go. Amendment 71 proposes amending the Colorado Constitution to require that a certain number of signatures be gathered from each state Senate district to place a constitutional initiative on the ballot, and increase the percentage of votes required to adopt a constitutional amendment, except for proposals that only repeal part of the state's constitution. Argument 4. It should be difficult to change the Constitution because it is a foundational document for the state. Because the current requirements for proposing and adopting constitutional and statutory amendments are the same, the Constitution has seen the addition of detailed provisions that cannot be changed without an election. Amendment 71 is expecting to encourage citizen initiated changes to law in statute by making it harder to amend the Constitution. Statutory changes allow the legislature to react when laws require clarification and when problems or unforeseen circumstances arise. Requiring that signatures for constitutional initiatives be gathered from each state Senate district ensures that citizens from across the state have a say in which measures are placed on the ballot. Due to the relative ease of collecting signatures in heavily populated urban areas compared to sparsely populated rural areas, rural citizens currently have a limited voice in determining which issues appear on the ballot. Argument against. Amendment 71 makes it too difficult for citizens to exercise their right to initiate constitutional changes. Sometimes the will of the people or issues of broad public interest are not adequately addressed by the political process. While statutory changes may be amended or repealed without the approval of the voters, the power to amend the Colorado Constitution lies solely with the citizens. It is critical to preserve the current process and to protect the rights of the citizens to change the Constitution. Requiring proponents to collect signatures statewide for proposed constitutional changes makes the process of placing the amendment on the ballot even more difficult and costly. Amendment 71 unduly restricts ballot access for average Coloradans, leaving an important democratic tool accessible only to those able to bear the higher costs associated with the complicated signature gathering process. That is Amendment 71. Amendment 72. Amendment 72 proposes amending the Colorado Constitution to increase the state tax on a pack of cigarettes from 84 cents to $2.95, or I'm sorry, $2.59. Increase the state tax on other tobacco products from 40% to 62% of the price, and distribute the new tax money for medical research, tobacco use prevention, doctors and clinics in rural and low-income areas, veteran services, and other health-related problems. Argument 4. Higher prices for cigarettes and tobacco products have been shown to deter smoking and tobacco use, especially among children and young adults. When cigarette taxes were last increased in 2005, the number of cigarettes consumed per person in Colorado fell by 12.6%. Tobacco use is a leading cause of preventable diseases like cancer and heart and lung disease, contributing to 5,100 deaths in Colorado per year. Reducing smoking and tobacco use will improve the health of Colorado residents. Dedicating cigarette and tobacco tax revenue to healthcare and research is an important way to offset the healthcare burden and cost tobacco uses places on the state. Tobacco use increases direct healthcare costs in Colorado by an estimated $1.9 billion annually, with additional healthcare costs related to the secondhand smoke. The revenue from the proposed tax increase will fund the health programs, research, and benefit for Colorado veterans, people with mental health diagnosis, and rural healthcare providers. The argument against? Amendment 72 is a $305.7 million tax increase. The measure creates a constitutional requirement that revenue from the new taxes be spent on specific programs, even if these programs are ineffective at reducing the cost of tobacco use. Unless voters approve other constitutional change, the spending priorities in the measure will receive taxpayer funding indefinitely. As tobacco use declines, Amendment 72 will lock in the state spending on unnecessary programs, even when the new needs are identified in the state budget. Tripling the tax on cigarettes impacts low-income tobacco users the most. Recent studies have shown that people with lower income are more likely to use tobacco products and less able to afford tax increase. Nationally, more than a quarter of the people in poverty smoke cigarettes, and tobacco users with low income spend about 14% of their household income on tobacco products. Because these products are addictive, tobacco users may continue to use tobacco even after taxes are increased. Low-income tobacco users who are unable to quit will subsidize programs that benefit non-tobacco users, taking money out of already tight household budgets. And that is Amendment 72. I think I only have 3 left. Proposition 106. Proposition 106 proposes amending the Colorado statutes to allow a terminally ill individual with a prognosis of 6 months or less to live to request and self-administer medical aid-in-dying medication in order to voluntarily end his or her life. It will also authorize a physician to prescribe medical aid-in-dying medication to terminally ill individual under certain conditions. And it creates criminal penalties for tampering with a person's request for medical aid-in-dying medication or knowingly coercing a person with a terminal illness to request the medication. Arguments for. Proposition 106 expands the options and supports available to a terminally ill person in the last stage of life. Under the measure, a terminally ill individual may consult with a physician and benefit from medical guidance in deciding whether and how to end his or her life. The measure allows a mentally competent individual to peacefully end his or her life in the time, place, and environment of his or her choosing after voluntarily requesting and self-administering the medication. Proposition 106 also provides protections from criminal penalties for physicians and family members who choose to support a terminally ill individual through the dying process. Proposition 106 seeks to balance the choice of a terminally ill person to voluntarily end his or her life with the state's interest in promoting public safety. It establishes safeguards by creating criminal penalties and ensuring that an individual's physician, family members, and heirs are not the only witnesses to requests for medication. The measure protects the individual by prohibiting any other person, including a physician, from making the decision to request medical aid in dying or from administering the medication. Further, by requiring that at least 2 physicians examine the individual and documents his or her prognosis and medical capabilities, the measure establishes a process to ensure that an individual is capable of making an informed decision to end his or her life. Access to medical aid in dying may provide a sense of comfort to a terminally ill person by authorizing medication as insurance against suffering and the potential loss of dignity and autonomy. Proposition 106 is similar to the options available in Oregon, Washington, Vermont, Montana, and California that respect the end-of-life concerns of terminally ill people. Oregon's experience shows that the majority of persons requesting medication cited concerns about losing autonomy and dignity at the end of their lives. Once the medication is requested, it is up to the individual to decide when and if to take it. In Oregon, for example, of the 1,545 people who requested the medication since 1997, approximately 1/3 chose not to use it. Arguments against. Encouraging the use of lethal medication by terminally ill people may send the message that some lives are not worth living to their natural conclusion. People who are at the final stage of life are often in fear of the dying process. The availability of medical aid in dying may encourage people to make drastic decisions based on concerns about the potential loss of autonomy or dignity, not realizing that modern palliative and hospice care may effectively address these concerns. Services such as pain and symptom management, in-home services, and counseling can help individuals navigate the end of their lives while minimizing suffering. Promoting medical aid in dying may lead to a reduced emphasis on treatment and development of new options for end-of-life care. Proposition 106 creates opportunities for abuse and fraud. The protections in the measure do not go far enough to shield vulnerable people from family members and others who may benefit from a premature death. Proposition 106 allows a family member or heir to be one of the witnesses to a request for medication, potentially subjecting the individual to coercion. The measure does not require that a physician have any specific training in order to make an assessment of the individual, or require independent verification that the medication was taken voluntarily or under medical supervision. Proposition 106 fails to ensure that the lethal medication will be stored in a safe location, potentially placing others at risk or leading to misuse. Proposition 106 may force physicians to choose between medical ethics and a request to die from a person for whom they feel compassion. The measure compromises a physician's judgment by asking him or her to verify that an individual has a prognosis of 6 months or less to live, yet fails to recognize that diagnosis can be wrong and prognosis are estimates, not guarantees. The measure also requires that physician or hospice director list the terminal illness or condition on the death certificate, which requires these professionals to misrepresent the cause of death. Wow. These are very important amendments and propositions. I'm glad we're reading them to you today, because I know that you guys read these whole books when you get them in the mail. Proposition 107. Proposition 107 proposes amending the Colorado statutes to establish a presidential primary election in Colorado that allows participation by unaffiliated voters. Argument 4. A presidential primary serves Colorado voters better than the caucus system. The current caucus system is confusing and inaccessible to many voters. Caucuses can be crowded, held at inconvenient times, and conducted by inexperienced volunteers. A presidential primary election eliminates the logistical difficulties of conducting caucuses. Under Proposition 107, a presidential primary will give voters several weeks to cast their ballots by mail or at a voting center. And the election will be conducted in the same manner as all other elections by experienced county election officials. All registered voters in Colorado should be allowed to participate in this selection of presidential nominees, even if they are not affiliated with a political party. Unaffiliated voters make up more than 1/3 of all registered voters in the state. Proposition 107 gives these unaffiliated voters a role in selecting presidential nominees and may increase voter participation. Proposition 107 protects voter confidentiality by allowing voters to select presidential primary candidates using a secret ballot. The current caucus system requires voters to publicly declare their candidate preference, which can discourage participation by many voters who do not wish to make their preference known. Arguments against. Proposition 107 uses a combined ballot system for unaffiliated voters that will likely result in some unaffiliated voter ballots not being counted, could change the primary election winners, and would raise costs for taxpayers. On a combined ballot, unaffiliated voters must vote for only one party's candidate. People who vote for candidates in both parties will have their ballots disqualified and their ballots will not be counted. This can change election results and may result in contested elections and litigation. Producing and processing a separate combined ballot for unaffiliated voters creates administrative and financial burdens for counties, especially smaller and rural counties. Proposition 107 shifts costs to taxpayers, as the state and counties will be required to spend at least $5 million every 4 years to conduct a presidential primary election. Under a caucus system, taxpayers save money because caucuses are conducted and funded by the political parties. Taxpayers should not be required to pay the cost of nominating contests for political parties. The measure also places an administrative burden on counties to conduct an additional election every 4 years. Under the current law, unaffiliated voters who wish to participate at a caucus can declare their party affiliation ahead of time and attend. That is Proposition 107. Proposition 108. I think this is the last one. Let me look. Hold, please. Yes, it is. Proposition 108. Propose amending the Colorado statutes to change the primary election process in Colorado to allow unaffiliated voters to vote in a non-presidential primary election of a single political party, and allows political parties to opt out of holding a primary election and instead choose to nominate candidates by assembly or convention. Argument 4. Proposition 108 gives unaffiliated voters who are Colorado taxpayers the opportunity to vote in publicly financed primary elections. Unaffiliated voters make up more than 1/3 of all registered voters in the state. Proposition 108 gives unaffiliated voters a role in selecting candidates for the general election and makes voting in primary elections easier and more accessible for these voters. Allowing unaffiliated voters to participate in primary elections may result in candidates who better represent all Coloradans. In a closed primary, voter participation is typically low, and the candidates selected often appeal to a small number of the party's more active members. Opening the primary election may result in candidates who are more responsive to a broader range of interests. Arguments against. Proposition 108 uses a combined ballot system for unaffiliated voters that will likely result in about 7% of unaffiliated voter ballots not being counted, which could change election winners and would raise costs for taxpayers. On a combined ballot, unaffiliated voters must vote for only one party's candidate. People who vote for candidates in both parties will have their ballots disqualified and their ballots will not be counted. In Washington State, where combined ballots are used, 7% of ballots are disqualified. This can change election results and may result in contested elections and litigation. Producing and processing a separate combined ballot for only unaffiliated voters creates administrative and financial burdens for counties, especially small and rural counties. Colorado law already allows unaffiliated voters who wish to vote in political primaries to easily change their party affiliation at any point during the election, up to and including Election Day. Political parties who are membership organizations that have the right to select their own candidates without influence from people who choose not to affiliate with the party. And those, my friends, are your ballot items for this voting year. That concludes our entire program today. Thank you again for taking the time to hear from our candidates, to hear from both sides of 3A, 3B, and 2E on your ballot, and also for listening to me read the remaining ballot initiatives. We appreciate you. On behalf of the Wheat Ridge Chamber of Commerce, the Wheat Ridge Business Association, and the Golden Chamber of Commerce, thank you so much. My name again is Dot Miller. I am your president of the Wheat Ridge Chamber of Commerce. Thank you.